Welcome back, everybody, to the LTA South Twitch channel. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by RMC today for another playoffs series. Now, you have to forgive me. I have been out casting a LAN event in Glasgow yesterday. I'm a little run down today, but I was not about to miss this series, RMC. These two teams have been some of our most exciting, and I'm sure they're going to put on a great show for us today.
Fully with you, Trajan. Yesterday, I got the pleasure of casting the match of the multitudes, Pain versus Loud.
Yes,
so my voice kind of got blown out on game 4 because that was epic. But Trajan, today we've got K-Stars versus Furia. And I know that throughout most of the season, the story has been Pain versus Furia. But personally, this match to me is closer, is more hype because K-Stars and Furia feel that much closer. And the headline for me, the Battle of the Beautiful Brains, ThinkHard versus CL.
Yes, absolutely. These coaches have become somewhat emblematic of these current rosters right here. These orgs, have, of course, have been around for a little bit just now. They've both had years where they've won regular seasons. Neither of them have ever taken a title away, at least not in this modern era. You know, we've had the Super Furias. We've had 2022 was like the year of Super Furia, but no title secured. Last year, VKS climbed all the way back up with this CL model, making it to first in regular season, but couldn't get higher than second at the end of playoffs. So neither of them have managed to make it all the way, but they are now both still in prime position contending right behind those favorites.
Yeah, and K-Stars, one of those ancient orgs, the second oldest right behind Pain Gaming. The last time they won anything was back in 2014. Split one, Trajan. So it's been a hot minute, and CL has already announced his intention to win at least one of the splits this year, despite sort of the 5-year developmental program he's had. This roster, he feels like, is one that can clinch it in the current climate, but they've got to get past Furia first before they can even think about Pain Gaming. And Trajan, as you mentioned, these orgs have been around for a bit now. They've actually never met up in the playoffs, so this will be the first time they meet up in more than just the best of one.
Yeah, we've only seen that single game from them so far this year. They did not meet in Split 1 and Split 2. They had one positioning phase match by necessity, but we've not seen any more data from them so far. Let's take a look at Furia's roster here to get reacquainted. Gigo top lane, Tattoo jungle, Tuts mid, Ayu and Jojo in the bot lane. And we will be touching on to Tattoo particularly in a little bit. We'll talk about that jungle matchup, but this has been a roster that once they had this new jungler in and Tut stepping up in the mid lane, finding his feet once again, we really see, I think, we saw the shape of the vision actually coalesce and become clear in that start of Split 2.
For sure. And in an earlier interview between Coach CL and Coach ThinkHard and the official LTA South broadcast, ThinkHard was very vocal that he thinks, you know, his team is mechanically better. And I look at these names, I can't argue with that, right? You've got Tattoo, the phenom that, you know, you're talking about, just came in as well. His story has been meteoric. In 2023, he was an INTZ Academy and CB Academy. That team went dead last. And yet, Tattoo was considered revelation of the Academy year. Like, this guy had talent. Pain Gaming Academy picked him up last year in 2024, recognizing said talent, and that was a story in and of itself. They actually weren't looking at Tattoo as their initial jungler for Pain Gaming Academy. It was Fu, who Pain Gaming Academy was scouting, who actually recommended, hey, take a look at this jungler as well. If you want me, you probably want Tattoo. And Pain Gaming Academy ended up going with Tattoo. Tattoo, in that first split with Pain Gaming Academy, won CB LOL Academy. Second split, won Challengers America, an international tournament before he even makes a Tier 1 debut. And then now he is on Furious Super Kids, absolutely crushing it. Ayuzi in the bot lane, that guy's incredibly mechanical as well. Gigod in the top side, former Korean killer, struggling a little bit this split, but still his highs are high. And then you've got Tuts and Jojo kind of rounding it out. Sort of the older heads, I say older heads, Tuts is still really young, but he's dad. And Jojo is, I think, the oldest person on this roster, which doesn't say much when this is the youngest average age roster in this league.
Yeah, for sure. The oldest, but not particularly old, but has been something of a leader on multiple rosters, multiple orgs at this point. Naturally seems to fall into that role. The style that he plays support with, the depth of pool and the versatility there. I think often we see Jojo making those key decisions as the game goes later, and Furia have been finding a lot of success with this formula thus far. Let's take a look at VKS as well, just to see who we're dealing with across the side here. Bowl in the top side, Desamus jungle, Kissy mid, Morteus and Trimby in the bot lane. And to start to kind of keep on this jungle track, Tattoo is the current hottest prospect out of the jungle role in Brazil, but just a couple of years ago, a very short time in the past, Desamus was that same person, the player that did not quite have as meteoric a rise, but the potential was plain to see from very early on.
Yeah, even, I mean, just last year before Tattoo was here, right? It was all about Desamas, and Desamas felt a bit like he was kind of evil held on his roster. Is not perhaps a fair statement, but he came up through the Vorex Liberty Academy system. Then he spent a year on Liberty back in 2022 on a roster with names like Crastiel, Matsukaze, Kiari as his top laner. And it should have worked, but it kind of just never clicked. And then from there, he went to the Fluxu Mega roster, the one with the likes of House, of Brunsey, and Jojo on that particular roster. Again, a star-studded roster, which just couldn't click. And finally, last year, Coach CL coming to Brazil, picking up the Vivo Kate Stars project. And CL seems to have unlocked Desamas quite a bit. We've seen that potential really come through. Again, Kate Stars last year, first in the regular season, both splits, right? Desamas, a huge part of that. In this split as well, it does feel like Desamas is the engine. In fact, ending the regular season, Desamas is the KDA leader in the entire league across all roles.
Knocking Karaoke off that pedestal, spent a lot of time from the top. The junglers this split have just been, they've been hitting most of the time, RMC. This has been a bit of a split of the junglers coming up with Desamas and Tattoo representing that new generation. Shinny back on Loud, finding more success. Karaoke, as you say, returning to form as well. Aegis back on the Rift. We have a lot of excitement coming out of that jungle role right now, but it is going to be that next generation that is battling for superiority today, and that will be probably our most closely watched matchup as this series progresses. Now, I tried to take a look at some of the stats for this one. Obviously, RMC have been patched in at a late hour to cover this series. Didn't have time to go into the depths yourself. But I didn't come up with that much, I'll be honest. These teams are very, very close statistically. They're almost too hard to separate on a whole slew of metrics. The only thing that I could find that is significantly different is the average grubs taken. Furia takes almost twice as many grubs, 3.1 currently average. That is, given that there are only 3 grubs in the game now, they have now maintained an average higher than 3, given the earlier splits, to a 1.7 of VKS. Furia are first, VKS are last in the region in terms of grubs priority. So if we can see this focus on the camp, given that we have now swapped to 3 grubs instead of 6, what is the kind of consensus among the intelligentsia of League of Legends? How are we feeling about the grubs right now? How much priority does it still deserve?
I think the grubs and what they give you in terms of the ability to take down structures quicker is more important now that there's one set, right? Because the difference between 1 and 2 is huge. 2 gives you the extra buff that you need to take down those turrets. 3 gives you grubs. Or the void links, pardon me. So it matters more that you're taking it in terms of sort of the macro idea, but the timing for junglers is not as good now, because you used to be able to take it and it gives you 6 for junglers, so that was one of the high priors why they went for it and get at least one of the grubs, but now it doesn't do that, and so for junglers, it kind of feels worse in game. It feels like it doesn't help you as much. Now, I don't think getting all 3 grubs really increases your chances of winning that much, unless you have a composition that can very greatly take advantage of sort of split pushing or quick turret taking. However, Trajan, if you're telling me all the other stats are that similar, and that's the only stat that's kind of different, then hey, if Furia is able to maintain that advantage over grubs without losing any metric anywhere else, it might be the difference maker, especially when we look at these top laners, Bull versus Gigo. Gigo, a guy who definitely, when you're talking split pushing, he's done it all in the past, right? 1v1 absolute menace, that's why he's Gigod. On the other side, Bull has been playing a lot of carries, and carries are good at split pushing by nature, are good at taking turrets. If he finds those kills, if he becomes that big carry, maybe those Void Grubs could make the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I believe only 2 of our top laners have pulled out the Fiora so far in the split, and it is Gigo and it is Bull. They are both, if we're talking split pushers, if we're talking menaces in the side lane, both of these players have shown a tendency and proficiency on these styles of champions, but they can do both. They can be weak side, they can be prioritized. They've both shown that. Bull particularly has shown a great more depth of proficiency, shall we say, in this most recent split, to be honest, coming on to VKS. And Gigo, I think, to be honest, needs to do a little bit of reputation mending after botching the matchup versus Weiser somewhat against Pain in that cross-group battle. But we are into that first draft, and the Gwen has come right off the table. So again, a favorite of Bull, I believe, is most played so far this split.
Yeah, and we have been seeing sort of a bit of top lane power, pardon me, with 3 specific champions being Gwen, Jace, and Rumble. And especially in game 1s, if they're not banned, we kind of often see them being picked. Now, Jace was banned by the side of Furia, so that leaves 2 of the OPs open. It's Gwen, it's Rumble. And Rumble, I don't think it's the favorite necessarily of these players. It is not the 1v1 expert, but it's not the prio. Furia went straight for the nerf in the Fury.
We've not even seen Neferi from Tatu so far this split, if I'm not mistaken. One of the few to not actually even attempt it. We have seen it from the Samus, it worked very well, and nerfed as it has been kind of a couple times, it is still being prioritized as we can see, and this is going to be our first, an actual real carry game for Tatu, which we don't actually see that often from him. The answer so far has been the Nocturne. We'll see what Kissy wants to take in the mid lane, and Tuts has gone for the kind of standard Talia. Now, something we hadn't quite touched on yet is that both of these teams are willing to dig into the pockets for off-meta picks proactively rather than reactively. They don't necessarily wait till game 4 and 5 to bring out something strange. We'll see if there's going to be anything out of the ordinary right now. To be honest, nothing is at least meta-wise out of the ordinary, but we are seeing some picks that have not been common for them thus far. Kissy on the Annie is taking a while to actually land in the LTA South, and yeah, then a Neferi first time for Tatu this split.
Yeah, and even the Nocturne is not really an S-tier jungler currently, right? We're looking at things like Sejuani, Xin Zhao, Pantheon have kind of taken that S-tier, and Nocturne's kind of fallen down to B-tier, where we do see him, but it's usually later in the series. So K-Star's kind of cooking, and K-Stars were the team that pioneered Nocturne Orianna initially. They're splitting that up, so you can't get Nocturne Orianna anywhere. This is Fearless. Once played, it's gone.
And now the answer in the last rotation here is the Olaf. We saw Robo pull the Olaf out in game 4 yesterday. Didn't get the win, but certainly looked good in that lane. He was very effective on this pick, a classic Robo champion there. Gigo as well, one of our old school top laners, has had it in the pocket. Now into Gwen, I have no idea. They're both good at individual trading. They've both got good sustain and surprising damage built in. In terms of that early 1v1, I mean, it's hard for anyone to actually beat Olaf at that stage in the game, right?
Yeah, he lands the Undertows. He's nigh unbeatable at levels 1 and 2. The interesting thing is Olaf was originally considered a counter to Gwen back in the day because of his ability to kind of all in and just hard commit to that. But it kind of fell off because Gwen outscales, and at some point she just does more damage. So a very bold choice by Gigo here. I need to see Tatu kind of cap that top lane a little bit, and it feels like we're trying to cause that chaos at duel in the top side without CC to enable Tatu to maybe get some kills and start snowballing on his own. For both the teams now, though, we are looking at their bot lanes, both AD carry and support to be picked up, and Kai'Sa and Ezreal removed. Varus is already taken off the table. Kalista Prio has fallen down. Do we see MF maybe being taken off the board?
We do see that often as a priority pick that still makes it through the bans more often than not. The Varus as well has been taken away. So kind of that first 3 or 4 priority picks that tend to come out, kind of Ezreal, Varus, MF, have been almost entirely stripped away. Both of these champions, both these players, I should say, have quite matched pools. They share a lot of champion priority here. There's not as much individual kind of spice on either side, with the Xayah being the last option right here. Wow. So Io and Jojo with that first priority there, and they will get the ultimate counter pick as well.
Okay, I do like the Xayah takeaway, though, with the Nocturne, if you want to be diving that back line. Lucian, of course, forgot about him. He is the highest prio AD carry on meta right now, which is surprising that we see him fall to sort of that second rotation to come through. And Fury, they've got kind of a lot of individual lane strength. If K-Stars want the misfortune, they're going to need, I think, like a Rel to pair with it right now, because Annie is the only other sort of AoE wombo combo they have to set up a misfortune. Corki, more self-agency, but I still have concerns about range for Corki.
Not as much success. This champion has not been finding it so far. And the quick switch to the Zeri. Now, I believe we've seen a Zeri game from Morteus. I don't think it was a win, and nobody has looked that great on this pick right now, to be honest. They've been struggling to get value out of a Zeri that is not in the strength of position it used to be in seasons past. They've paired it with an Enchanter, so are likely going to see a double Enchanter bot lane, which you do not see every day. There are things like the Milio, the Nami, of course, is the standard pairing with the Lucian, though, you know, engagers are not off the table. It will be the Nami, and it's going to be the classic pairing.
Okay, makes sense. I think that has one of the higher bursts, higher than Milio's, so it just feels more comfortable, though I would argue I personally prefer the Milio. I think it's more sustained poke is safer, even if the all-in potential is a little bit weaker. But you're right, Morteus has played Zeri once. It was a loss, one of their few losses, but he still posted a 4.0 KDA on the champion. So, you know what? Right now, it feels like Zeri is Bruncey's solo champion. Only he is kind of able to pull it off, but... Yeah, both IU and Morteus have given the challenge before, and it feels like they're going for it again. We've seen the Zeri as an answer to the Lucian in a lot of different leagues. I don't know if it's working out that well, to be honest, Trajan, but the idea is there. You can survive the laning phase, and then you can outscale, and especially with the Lulu. I actually think the Lulu is the more important part of it, because if you polymorph Lucian when he's kind of buffed up and ready to go in, you can actually trade back and win that trade, and Lucian's damage is very bursty. Once the burst is down, Zeri can run him down.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the potential Olaf threat as well, which also benefits from the Nami as by the by, but the Lulu polymorph timing compared, I guess, with the Olaf ultimate needs to be a potential consideration there. If the Olaf is going deep for the backline, is about to wreak havoc, are you able to actually use the Lulu skills properly to neutralize it, or will the Berserker Rage just kind of plow through and make that work before it can be solved? Now, the Gwen in top side plus the Zerion bot side, it does seem like the scaling is going to be generally on VKS's side, but we know, as this Furia fan is kind of hinting to us here, Furia are bloodthirsty. They will not wait around. They will not sit and wait for a late game. They like to win in the first 5 minutes functionally, and then just kind of have to wait 20 more minutes before the Nexus is destroyable.
Yeah, and given how both these teams play, I don't expect it to be sort of a scale frustration. Now, it might go 40 minutes. That is a possibility, but it will not be for lack of action or trying. We've heard both coaches kind of talk about their philosophies and how they want to approach this game. I think the macro from these teams tend to be rather good, and K-Stars was known for having good early game plans in the past. Now, this split, it did falter a little bit, but it feels like with K-Stars coming back into form, finding their success, it has been, once again, Desamis having a good early game plan, Trimby roaming out and kind of connecting very well with Desamis. Now, with a Lulu, I don't know how well Trimby can roam necessarily, but I do expect to see Desamis get some early action. Well, early being level 6. I do expect to see some level 6, level 7 action start to come through from K-Stars.
Yeah, for sure. And Furia, emphasis on the hands, on the mechanics, the outplay potential, and that damage that arrives early into the game. VKS maybe with a bit more utility to offer more scaling options. They've got the paranoia as well. If Furia are trying to put together a coordinated team fight without as many, with a lot of champions that can play with individual agency, if you turn the lights out, suddenly they're all running in 5 different directions, and who knows who's going where, right? So there is a potential risk, I think, for Furia trying to coordinate later on, depending on how VKS can approach these team plays. But if they even get there, Furia, I'm sure, would love to not even give them a chance and have the Nexus going down at 20 minutes flat, but we shall see how these lanes go. They've got to get off the block quickly if they want to make that happen.
And Trajan, you're assuming that Furia wants to play front to back or any sort of organized play in team fights. I'm looking at Olaf, I'm looking at a Furia, I'm looking at Lucianami. Like, these guys all want to do their own individual thing. So even if the lights turn out, I actually kind of like Furia's odds in these fights. Yes, somebody's going to die. I don't think that's up for question. But the question is the bigger question, or the real question is, what happens to everybody else? You might lose one, but you still have enough damage to kind of overload the rest of that fight. And hey, maybe you can hunt down Morteus and Kissy in sort of the chaos that does ensue. Both junglers starting on the bot side of the map. Again, I'm not expecting Desamis to really gank pre-6. Nocturne ganks aren't particularly strong. And the lane setup is not particularly good for the side of VKS. So if anything, I'm kind of looking for Tatu to introduce some chaos. Probably not bot side. I think Ayu and Jojo are expected to play the solo 2v2. But maybe more into the mid lane where Annie does have to kind of walk up and she doesn't have easy escapes. And maybe in the top side where Bo has opted for Ignite, no Ghost or Flash.
Ayu trading aggressively into Trimby as Mortea stepped away to drop a ward, chunks that Lulu down to half, but the wave still in the control of VKS, and they do need to respect at this early stage. Yes, Zeri scales well, but a stun into mid lane. There's no mana on Tuts as well. Could be a summoner bird. The flash is traded. Q will not do enough. Remember to pop your potions, kids, as Tuts walks away alive.
Yeah, and that flashes down for both mid laners. Trajan, we were talking about potential jungle gangs to come in. Mid just got a lot more attractive with that particular trade, and Tuts doesn't even lose out that much. Sure, he flashed first, he lost the trade, but they're both going to TP back into lane, so it's a full reset and no real advantage found.
Yeah, Dark Seal for Kissy and a tier for Tuts, perhaps denoting the approach to this lane for these two champions coming forward. We see both junglers on the top side. Desamis maybe seeing if there is an early angle, not even dropping a ward necessarily. Tatu still working on farming it up on the Neferi. And the Scuttle is going to spawn on that top side. So we'll see if the junglers might meet in the river right now as Tatu comes around the corner.
Yeah, and I kind of fear for Tatu a little bit if they do end up meeting. Neferi not that strong early on, and Tuts without the priority makes the 2v2 kind of dicey. Desamis able to pick up that first top side Scuttle uncontested, and interestingly enough, not going to try and look for the bottom side. We talked about the mid lane favoring Kissy a little bit, while bot lane heavily favors Ayu and Jojo. They've been perma-pressed this entire game.
That's with Desamis once again, face to face now on the bot side of mid lane. The ward will be cleared out and Tatu will retreat back to the jungle. So Desamis maintaining a small tempo lead in the jungle right now. We'll love to get to that level 6 and start getting the ults coming down. As the trades still coming through thick and fast in the mid side. Looks like both side lanes for Furia as well starting to open up a small lead of their own. So this is what we expect and need from them, I think, in this game. We cannot be sitting around on our laurels if we're Furia.
And that's why I think KStar is really waiting for that level 6. I don't really know where the gang's going to go. Are you being pressed?
Hold the phone. Very aggressive barrier used by Morteus and the heal as well. The bubble not landing. That was a kill if it did. But Trimby, full HP on the front line, still threatening. And Desamas around the corner trying to bait Ayu and Jojo in to sending it for the kill. But they will not be baited just yet. Tatu's coming around the corner. It could be a 3 versus 3 top lane. The fights are going down. Gigo committing onto Bowl. He's got him away from the tower. And the Olaf is going to draw first blood.
No level 6 hit yet, so Bo not ready with the needlework to fight. And remember, we said Bo's running the Ignite. You picked that summoner for lane to win that 1v1 matchup, but unfortunately, it wasn't even close. And because you had Ignite, not Ghost, not Flash, Bo just had no way out of trouble. And Gigo winning out the 1v1. Trajan, we talked about this top lane. With carry players in both roles, with carries on both sides, whoever wins can very quickly snowball this game, and that might be what breaks this equilibrium between teams.
Straight into the Hexdrinker goes Gigo, given the extra survivability, trying to fix this matchup, and VKS's response is to opt out entirely. They've lane swapped bot up here, but let's take a replay of how that fight got started.
And we talked about how Olaf is really strong in early levels, and you can see that. As soon as he lands Undertow, he's going to win that. Bo actually popping the Hallowed Mist from range, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes, because Hallowed Mist, we always know it for Gwen is immune, and it gives you the ability to kind of dodge out projectiles or anything from outside range, ignore all the damage. It also gives you a bit of resistances when you're fighting inside of it. So when you pop the first one out there, it just meant that Gigo knew he could afford to go all in, and once he can push you out the first time, he just runs you down the second time, and Bo probably just shouldn't have stepped up whatsoever. Now, in the bot lane, we see Furia, also some lane swaps, Ayu and Jojo not matching to top lane. They've gone for mid lane control instead, where they can respond to either objective, Grubs, or Dragon.
Gigo's reward for the solo kill is to now be swapped into by the bot side and have no more fun for the lane. As ult's committed in mid lane, a cleanse required out of Ayu as well. Level 6 hit by the Annie. Dodges past the Q from Desamas as well, still waiting on that paranoia as now bot lane rotates down. Tatu was thinking about the Drake, but is peeling back for the Scuttle right now. Not feeling super confident here.
And huge win, I'd say, for Furia. The fact that they kind of burnt out Tibbers from Kissy, and that's pre-6 from Desamas, so we don't see the Tibbers into Paranoia combo, which is really what I was kind of watching for. I think that's the easiest lane to set up for Desamas gang. And Ayu manages to trade damage back onto Desamas, onto Kissy, and that gives Tatu that first move advantage onto Dragon. They've already chunked it significantly, so Furia, off of their bot lane, getting the first objective Dragon uncontested.
Tut's going to keep shoving in on this bot side as well. And you can see the CS difference opened up in top lane from this whole shuffling has really set Bo behind right here. Has to use his TP to get back to top lane as well. And is not going to be having any fun. So Gigo is going to be allowed to play out that top lane for just a little longer. And they might swap them back again. We'll see what the choice for VKS is right now, because 1 kill, 1 dragon, and 1,000 gold have wound up in Furia's pocket, the lead right here after this various shuffling in the first few minutes.
And that's straight up just better laning from Furia, right? Like, Thinkard has said it before. He thinks his team has the better hands. And this draft they've picked has really enabled them to show it. Keep in mind as well, it's a lot of early game champions. Lucian Nami, strongest in the early game. Kissy with the engage.
Well, here it is. There's that combination. A flash over the wall from Touch, but Desamas to follow it. Knocks him back with a seismic shove. Does he have room to get a Weaver's Wall to safety? Is going to pop it. Kissy coming around the corner. Looking for the stun, but won't quite make it for the second time today. Touch strolls away with less than a bar of health.
Like alive, I'm Kissy, I'm tilted, man. Literally the second time we've seen that disintegrate kind of follow Tuts all the way out and not be able to find him. But I did like the call from VKS. I do think that's the combo that you wanted to see. Stun into Paranoia. Unfortunately, remember, Kissy used to summon Tibbers on Ayu mid lane earlier, so Kissy didn't actually have the full combo. If he did, that was probably a kill. Tibbers just came up that ultimate.
And Furia now heading on to their customary grub stake. It will be all 3, keeping the average as high as possible for 1 more game. And that's going to give them that extra pushing power with the grubbies. And with a lead building like this, Lucian, Olaf in the side lane, you love the power that grubs can give to your pushes.
And I'm looking at Ayu Jojo in the early game, pre-6 minutes. It was them who was just perma-pressing into this ball lane. And now with the grubs as well, if they can get some a little bit of chip damage, that chip damage is going to be significant and building over time as well. Furia, not only did they get grubs, Trajan, but it's the way they're doing it uncontested. Off of Kate Stars plays. And I'm not sure if Furia actually are happy with that. I think they actually want an early skirmish, but because it's Kate Stars pulling the trigger first, and then Kate Stars having to kind of go, okay, yeah, we lost that, and we can't go for the play. Kate Stars not actually losing much besides tempo, besides the objectives. Nobody's dying at any rate.
Yeah, the trades are getting low. They're almost making it stick, but they've not been able to actually nail anyone down just yet, as Gigo is now behind the tower. Dive onto Bowl actually early from Tatu. Going to use the W to reset the aggro at some stage, but a TP coming in. They really want the kill, but it's far from the first ill-fated top dive we've seen from Furia, but once again, the gods are on their side, and they'll both live.
That's hilarious. That reminds me of the other ill-fated dive that I suspect most of us think about when we think of Furia, which was the Sejuani wraparound Tatu diving into turret to make the action happen. Very similar to Nefuria gank, but Sejuani doesn't have as easy an escape. And I remember in a post-game interview, Gigo said that, yeah, it's him who told Tatu that, hey, you're a rookie. If you want to make people remember you, you got to go for those hero plays. And it's game 1 in a best of 5, Trajan. If you're going to make hero plays, if you're going to take high risks with questionable rewards, this is the game to do it. And sure, Gigo and Tatu, it fails, but they don't actually lose anything off of it. Tuts is right up there to immediately catch the wave, so they're not losing the minions. Bull has to get a reset anyways. Desamis wasn't able to find anything. And yeah, the sort of lane shuffles and assignments that come through make this not a high-risk play. The risk is dying. They don't die. It's medium risk, medium reward. It actually ends up good for Fury. They get to reshuffle lane assignments again.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the map is fairly even. They still got some work to do, getting Tuts and Ayu ahead. Gigo, of course, is chilling. He is 1.2k ahead at the 11-minute mark. But the rest of the map, they want to get Lucian accelerated to try and play aggressively for Ayu to make those hero plays. He's dashed forward. Mateus flashing aggressively to make it happen. Lucian has to flash away as well, but the culling does so much damage. Desamis coming in with a paranoia turns it to a 3v2 they can win. But that was very close for Mateus.
Yeah, super clutch. The wall growth coming in handy. Ayu's overextending right now. He's got no cleanse, but he's got cleanse party, but no flash.
No flash. Desamis going to come around the corner again. Going to speed up to him right now. Nowhere for Ayu to go. Sticks around to crash a wave and drops the second death.
And unfortunately, Kissy just watches from the sidelines, not able to pick up any assists whatsoever, despite the long roam up from the bot lane. And that's giving Gigo some time to get plates to answers. The kills are worth a lot more, and Kate Stars will be happy with that. But Furia making sure they get at least some sort of silver lining from that cloud.
Bit of a goof from Furia there, overextending in that mid lane, giving the kills away, losing some of that control. Still notably ahead, and they are still comfortable in most of the lanes across the map. The gold going into Desamis' pocket, so the Nocturne is going to sting a little more when he commits to these paranoias. But for now, while the timer is down, there's not much risk. Bull once again being dived by the dog, and Tuts this time will pick up the credit. Can hold on to the flash as well, doesn't need it to get out of range.
Clean dives coming through, and you could see that's exactly what they want to do the first time, but unfortunately Gigo's burst damage not quite as high, wasn't able to chunk down quite as much, and just like that, Furia answer backs shows that there's still a threat in this game. Now, Dragon has spawned on the bot side of the map. There's a lot committed up to the top side from Furia, but it's worth noting Desamis doesn't have his ult available, and Trimby doesn't have wall growth available. So if Furia want to fight this, I don't know if they get in there in time to stop the Dragon take, but they might be able to find a kill off the back end of it.
Tatu's trying to rush in there, hasn't arrived in time. Desamis with no flash, no way to get out of the pit. That's going to be a kill gifted over to Giga right there. So a Dragon for a kill as the culling comes out once again. Trimby this time the recipient. Won't be dropped too low here. And they will hold on to any of their TPs. I wondered if Tuts might come down there. He's going to TP back to the lane instead and keep that push going.
Yeah, I think that's quite fine. Furia don't want to overcommit for anything at this point, and calling down Tuts would have given Kissy sort of free lane in this top side to get a couple more plates, maybe 1 or 2 before the plates fall as well. So I think Furia are fine with that. They're trying to play this control. They don't want to mess up and give up too much, because keep in mind, Kate Stars have the skill and composition. So if you're trading even, Kate Stars are coming out ahead because they want to accelerate to that game a little bit faster. So Furia, they're on that tightrope of, yes, we want to get ahead. Yes, we want to press our leads, but no, we don't want to accelerate the game pace in favor of Kate Stars.
Gigo holding Bowl at arm's length as Desamis now with the ult online once again is pathing into bot side. Now the wave is going to start pushing back towards Bowl right here. Gigo does have Ghost but no ultimate himself, so might be under threat now, but does have some options to survive. And Tatu in fact has arrived. Trimby and Ayu, I should say, everyone's going to pile in here. The 3 versus 3 developing right now as Bowl the first target. Out comes Paranoia. Olaf is out of range and now Tatu can drop the return damage, but Trimby's there first, dropping low as Gigo. He can't survive yet. get Jojo and I need to try and solve this. Another 3v3 developing a TP coming in. Tatu diving out to safety, and now Ayu caught with the slow, doesn't want any more of it. Even trade at the end, a 1-for-1, both top laners going down, as now a stun from Kissy will not be followed up on.
Yeah, they don't quite have enough in the tank right now. Summon Timbers is available. If anything, maybe they look for the dive. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Morteus was thinking about going down, actually started fogging into war, moving into fog of war, pardon me, to move down to bot lane, but went back in the mid side. Does come back to bite him a little bit as Tuts manages to find the turret, and Tatu should be able to hold this mid turret. Decent chunk of change for Furia on that top side, and Tuts has just been quietly side laning and farming this entire time.
And the triumphant boots secured for Furia as well, giving them an extra little spike to look forward to post that second item as they are usually picked up. So the gold lead continues to grow slowly but surely, I suppose, for Furia. So see how we play that fight again.
Yeah, and in the 2v2, I do favor Gigo and Bull, but Trimby showing up with the wild growth was the big turning point. And as you mentioned, no Ragnarok available for Gigo. He just gets popped up, CC down, right? A lot of Olaf's tankiness is on that sustain, his ability to drain tank his way through fights. If he's CC'd up, he's not that effective. And unfortunately, even with Ragnarok, it's not exactly unbreakable. Like, you can still kind of cut through that. It lowers your resistances, if anything, so you're trading immunity of CC to vulnerability to damage.
Furia now stepping onto the Herald, continuing that top line objective focus. You can see Desamus, the richest player in the game right now, but really has to make sure those ults hit. A lot of pressure on the shoulders of the relatively new jungler, as Tatu as well hasn't been quite as active, maybe necessarily, not leading necessarily, but is showing up, still has the same KP, and is even on CS, just a little bit down in the gold department due to those extra kills going for Nocturne. So both the junglers are set up to be pretty big players right now, but Desamus, I think, for my money, has a bit more pressure, has to make those Nocturne ults count in the mid game.
Yeah, and the sort of function of their champions also kind of makes it a little bit harder for Desamus, because Desamus as a Nocturne is somewhat an engager, but more of sort of a backline burst damage threat. Whereas Tatu, yes, Naafiri has a lot of burst as well, but the burst feels higher for Naafiri, and she's got better escape tools. So I think the game does get easier for Tatu, and he's not the primary carry necessarily for this team, right? He's not the big engager. He's kind of the cleanup crew, so definitely a lot more pressure on Desamus. Desamus has shown us as a player, though, that he's good with the pressure. When the chips are down, he knows how to clutch up. And this game, we'll see if he's able to clutch up. So far, I do think he's delivered. 3-1-0, 100% kill participation for his team, and all the kills to boot. That's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start for him. The lanes are where the struggles have been for VKS. Now, we mentioned that top lane was solved pretty early. Gigo's still 2k ahead. Mid lane as well, now heavily in Furia's favor after Tuts got to soak up all of that top lane turret gold. He's 1.2k ahead. It's just Ayu that Furia can try to accelerate even further on. I guess Tatu in the jungle as well, but Desamus, of course, holding that one down. Ayu pretty deep in mid lane once again. All of VKS is here. He's got summoners, but does he have enough to get out of there? He's getting caught. He's getting slowed. He has been destroyed. Nice. Both of the Furia bot sides will not make it out. Tuts gets a flash out of Kissy in bot lane, but no chance for a kill.
And beautiful target selection coming through from Kate Stars, able to bag both Ayu and Jojo. No survivors whatsoever. Great rotations coming through, and they're making wonderful use of their globals. I contrast that to Tuts, who, yeah, he's been side laning really well. He's been getting advantages that way by not interacting, not playing PvP, just playing PvE. But his global has not been used to help his team out whatsoever. And Furia, those lane leads they got, sure, that's all good and well, but as the lanes are starting to open up, as we saw the top side turret go down and we see other turrets start to drop, it's whoever uses their globals better who's going to be able to get an advantage in this mid game. The collapse, as we said, target selection right onto Jojo, and then everybody else goes onto Ayu instead, so neither side's able to get out. Nami not very mobile, and yeah, Ayu didn't even have a chance to burn flash because all the bursts went on him, so he just got absolutely melted first.
Second instance of overstaying in the mid lane from Furia's bot laner. Doesn't want to fall behind right now, and did have a bit of a rough series against Pain last week. Titan and Curry kind of gave him the business down there, and we didn't see much of Ayu on that day. Maybe we can see a little bit more of him today into Morteus. Again, diving forward for the culling, looking for a bit of redemption. Gets the flash out at least.
Flash and heal. Trimby burning the heal just to make sure as well, because the culling is starting to hurt quite a bit. It is becoming a threat, and meanwhile, Furia, that was just in passing, in rotation to this dragon. It's worth noting, third dragon of the game, but Kate Stars got the second Drake, right? They got the Hex Tech. So because of that, the stacking for Furia is going to slow down a little bit. Again, that favors K-Stars. I think K-Stars have done a pretty solid job so far coming back from the laning deficits that they found themselves in.
Furia now bunching up around this mid lane. Samus is going to spot them in the brush, but they'll back away. Remember, not that much CC on the hands of Furia. It's hard for them to actually lock down a single target to try and eliminate them. Plenty of damage and mobility, but less utility to play together as 5. And VKS will manage to step back and clean up that vision. Of course, the Dragon already secured by Furia. A Mountain Drake building towards the Mountain Soul. And Furia could give them a little bit of that extra defense if they can lock it down to avoid those snap engages from Kissy and Samus, as they don't really have any true tanks on the team. Gigo really the best example of it, just through the healing.
Yeah, and Gigo's sole defensive item, if you will, pretty much, is the Magma Mortius. And even that's kind of damage-oriented. Kissy?
Tuts. With an ult, potentially sort of global, but here comes the teleport in from Bull to try and defend, and Kissy will not be under real threat right here. Tatu gonna try and get a bit of damage, try and kill Tibbers, to be honest, get that sick man off the rift as the Atakan is spawning. Furia would love to get that extra little bit of boost for them. VKS, yes, they're a little behind, but they have shown their combo is fearsome. They might be able to catch them out.
Yeah, I'm not confident that either of these teams can comfortably do Atakan in the face of the opposing team right now. Even with Tibbers down for VKS, the Paranoia Needlework and Zeri's ability to just kite around these fights is just too dangerous for Furia to comfortably start this out. They need to find a pick first before they do that, or shove somebody back, and I think that's what we're seeing. If they can get this turret, that goes a long way towards setting up. Bo is isolated right now.
Samus around the corner, going to drop the Paranoia to try and help them out. Big damage coming back from the Gwen, and in comes the Nocturne to finish off Talia. 1-for-1 so far, but Samus now maybe left on the front line. No help for him. Ayu around the corner to get down that damage, and the jungler has fallen. Kissy with a stun. Can Furia chase them more? They land the bubble. Flashing from Gigo. Triple knockup from the Trimby ultimate, but it cannot save the Annie. Furia still looking for more. The Herald's crashing down too. And this time, it's a very different story for the Panthers. They pick up the kills, and there's an Atakan to peel back for.
It feels like it's the first team fight we've actually seen Trajan. Everything else has been small skirmishes, ganks, pickoffs to come through. And Furia, we said, they have the strong early game. They're the one who wants to create a big fight, leverage their early game laning strength. And they were able to do that around Atakan at 20 minutes. And we said if they get the picks, they can comfortably go for this. Trimby, I don't know what he's looking for here, man. I just think it's risky to even show up right now. If Furia, if they have any sort of catch on you, you're dead to rights. And instead, you just stood there, watched as Atakan goes down, you lose all your outer turrets, and Furia are now in a commanding lead.
Finally, they have properly opened up this game, stacked up those blossoms. They got the extra buffs and value in the team fights from the Thornbound Atakan buffs. Going to put them in great stead to snowball this further. But let's see a replay of this first play onto Bowl.
And this is just great decision making from Furia. That turret was already low. They knew they could take it. And props to Bo and Samus for finding the counter kill back onto Tuts, but realistically, they were kind of dead to rights. And I think, if anything, you're just trying to get Bo out of position. He probably shouldn't have been stepping up there without at least 1-2 other people shading and covering in pocket. And you can see Furia, once they got Samus and Bo down, Kissy, Morteus, Trimby, they don't have enough tank ability. The culling that couldn't find kills prior, with a little bit of help, it is enough to shut people down. And then Morteus and Trimby just doing their best to do what they can. At least they stopped Shelly from charging. I think that's the only sort of win that K-Stars really had from that position.
When I was watching that fight unfold and Furia starting to push forward, and my first thought was, oh my god, what a great Kissy ult this is going to be. And I looked, but it's on cooldown because they'd already ganked him. They'd forced the ult beforehand. It's another play where the keystone ability of Annie is not available. And that's the kind of thing that would stop a Furia play like that in its tracks.
And I think that's been one of the big issues K-Stars have had with Kissy.
There it is.
Okay,
well,
there we
Flash
go.
should have stunned, and the Weaver's Wall not going to make it, and that's a clean pick.
But now what, Trajan? they get the pick, but there's no objective for them to take. Baron doesn't spawn.
Golf claps all around, firm handshakes, and we go back to what we were doing before with 300 gold.
Pretty much, and that's why Kissy feels like he constantly is decent from the rest of the team, right? He's using it for individual picks, which isn't bad in and of itself, but you do have to watch for objective timers when Tibbers is such a big team fight tool. He's now 0-1-1. He finally got on the board for kill participation. He's not joined in any of the kills so far. I'm sure you can say it's bad luck. You know, you can say it's bad calculation that the targets he chooses just seem to survive every single time. But if you hold it for a team fight and there's 5 people, surely you're going to get at least 1 KP, right?
There's a flash used for that pick as well. As you say, there's no timers, there's nothing else to gain off it, and losing the flash Annie potential, I think, when you're trying to catch a Lucian, catching a Fury in a long drawn out fight. Not sure if it's worth 300 gold, to be honest. And there's another Drake fight coming up that could put Furia on Dragon's Soul. They've got complete control of it. And VKS, they just ain't got the juice to step up.
Yeah, and guess what? Tuts is back up, right? You killed Tuts, great, but no objective was there for you to take. Now objective is up. Now Furia is up, and Kate Stars can't find anything to boot. Are you stepping up aggressively, wanting to make action happen? And is Trimby gonna get caught? He heals to get away.
There are some summoners dropping left and right for VKS. They're never going in with all the tools that they need, and Furia, you can see the confidence that they're feeling right now on this play. Now, VKS have managed to cut a 3.5k gold lead down to 2.5, so they're by no means sleeping on the map. But once Furia get an opportunity to play for that soul, to play for a Baron potentially over 30 seconds, they might look a little bit better, as Bol now is going to pick up that turret. VKS know they can commit hard to this one.
Okay.
Disarmer splashing in, gets over the seismic shove and takes out the jungler.
That's solid. And that one might actually matter because Baron spawning in 20 seconds. Tatu's the jungler and he's down for 40. Now, 20 seconds, I don't know if Kate Stars will be able to take Baron in that time with Furia running interference, but it should at least give Kate Stars the ability to set up full vision and maybe look for another catch. And once Baron is up, if Kate Stars can find a critical catch, if they can find Tatu again, at that point, Baron is very much on the menu.
Dojo going to go and clear out some vision after this Baron pit has spawned. Still under 4 minutes left for the break, so Furia with a little bit of time to play with right now. And VKS, they've used the paranoia. They can happily just sit and wait for that to come back up. But again, a flash used by Disarmer. So if Furia can find an opportunity to fight in the near future, they might be well placed to do so. And there's a big reward on the Rift if they can find it.
Okay, let's see if they're able to. Furia as well. I think Furia, interestingly, Trajan, we focus a lot on Kate Stars because they feel like they've been pulling the trigger for most of this game with the Annie, with the Nocturne, which I think makes a lot of sense. Those are the engage tools. Furia, on the other hand, have been winning out the 1v1s and 2v2s, but they haven't really been able to find many picks or catches of their own. Like, even the one big fight we saw was manufactured around a turret. It wasn't necessarily team fight engage. It was more like, we'll just run at you and we've got a numbers advantage. So we're talking a lot about how Kate Stars can make an advantage or go for these big objectives. I'm kind of curious of what Furia is going to do and how they're going to engage. Gigo's lead has largely kind of fallen off, and I feel like Bol has caught up. So Gigo running at you with no real Enchanter support doesn't feel viable as an engage option.
Yeah, we are going to reach the point where the Olaf usability does start to drop off a bit of a cliff, and Bowles is going to go in the opposite direction. VKS have returned to the Baron pit, but Desamus might be the target here. They can get him off the rift. That will be the perfect start. Has to commit the ultimate. He does fall down. Bowles in the front line, but can't do anything with it. And Furia now have a flank for Gigo to get stuck in. Morteus is the target.
Wow.
Nobody can stop the Olaf. 2 kills locked up, and he escapes past the tower. Furia had to act, and act they did.
And Gigo able to get out. Surprisingly, nobody tanking for him, but that's fine. He'll just regenerate because he's too angry to die. And we had questions, Trajan. Furia had answers. How do they find the pick? Well, they do it in your jungle. And it's weird considering Kate Stars won out the last fight. Kate Stars was the one with Prio over Dragon, should have been setting up vision, but it's Furia who go fishing and come away huge.
Baron secured for Furia right now. 27 minutes in, 5k now. The leader's rocketed back up, and they can use this to get great control of the lanes, maybe even threaten some more turrets just in time for the Mountain Soul in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I do think this Baron is actually kind of big for Furia. Their siege strength isn't very good either. Their ability to chip away turrets, a little bit risky. Lucian, not the longest range of AD carries, so not the easiest for him to just get in and get out, chipping away with those turrets. So having the Baron buff to be able to push is going to be massive. And right here, again, there's no vision control whatsoever from Kate Star. So Desamus is walking forward, and he just wants to drop wards right now. He gets picked off, and no true tank either. Unfortunately, Trimby was not really in position to be able to save Desamus when Desamus got caught out. So yeah, Kate Stars just get picked off. It's one of the few ways I feel like they could lose this game, is kind of just face checking and falling apart. The skilling as well for them, it's starting to kick in. Bol has 2 items, did pick up a Seeker's Arm Guard with the stashes available. Morteus has 2 items. That's when Zeri starts to actually hurt a little bit. But giving away that 3,000 gold to Furia, and now more as the Baron power push is coming through, a lot of their scaling just got nullified, and the timer got massively extended for Furia.
Yeah, they've got that bot lane tower done already. Of course, the constant threat of a Nocturne Paranoia does make the split push a risky probability, but Desamus is caught again. Do they have the damage once again to knock him off? Out comes the Paranoia. They're now wave over the top, and Desamus flies straight into the culling, eats the full clip, and drops like a stone. Eye's been taken down, though. Bol, maybe with some room in this fight. Tatu has to get away. Gigo arriving, sees what's going wrong, and needs the team to be saved. Comes in and drops the axe onto Gwen's head.
Gigo, like a true Viking in Raider style, coming in just to clean up the spoils and wiping them out. You can see the mode for K-Stars where Gigo showed up and they go, oh crap, guys, we can't do this anymore. The stats is coming in huge for Bull, but not enough, and Trimby can't take down this angry Viking. Gigo with a point blank undertow, more just to, I think, show off and zone. You know, he's just flexing at that point. I don't even need the undertow to chase y'all down.
Yeah, split call there, pushing it in mid lane while the Dragon is being taken. Furia keeping the pressure on in multiple points across the map, and this will be the Mountain Soul for the red side team. Still, I think notably when Giga was not there, we did start to see the first glimmers of what Bowl and what Morteus can do in the fight if they're given any room at all to maneuver.
Yeah, because unfortunately Gigo is the main tank, so everybody else is really squishy. Bowen, Desamis, and Kissy can do a lot of damage to all of these vulnerable, squishier members of Furia. But even then, Trajan, they did win without losing anybody from Furia's side, right? So they, squishy as they might be, they've got enough damage to be winning some of these fights 4v5 right now, especially when they get the jump on Desamis like that, when Desamis is face tanking. Desamis, I guess, is the Gigo equivalent for K-Stars, so if Desamis is down, yeah, they don't have much of a front line either for K-Stars.
Furia heading back to the pushes as before. The Baron has just ticked off though, so they won't have that extra safety on the minion push, though of course they do have the safety on their HP bars now from the Mountain Dragon Soul. We've ticked over to 30 minutes right now, and this very strong kind of snowbally comp from Furia has done a fair bit of snowballing, a fair bit of fighting, but they like to end the game before VKS get too much more gold in the pockets. They're going to keep pushing down mid lane right now, but they've got to be so careful of Desamis. But again, they're focusing him beautifully. He's dropping so low, and now he once again can't commit for the engage. Gigo doesn't want to let him get away with it. Tattoo diving in as well. The paranoia is called. Trimby dropping low but not quite dead. Tattoo on the front line needs to watch out. Kissy is behind the team somehow and has died along with the turret. VKS in a shambles in their base as it crumbles.
Yeah, Kissy was looking for the hero play, wanted to kind of get the flank on for the team, and I get it. If you can get the stun off, Morteus is on 3 items. Bull, just with a bit of chip damage from Ayu, almost goes down.
A 4-item Lucian. Who needs boots when you can build more swords? This Lucian is going crazy. It was a slow-ish start, but now he's got the damage to do it. Bull stepping right up, trying to bravely defend these towers, but again, no disarm is quite ready yet. He doesn't have the paranoia again. Ayu is tired of waiting and dashes forward for the kill.
They're just brute forcing this one, and now Super's pushing in the mid lane as out. Ayu has no chill.
Dude, once you're out of a mid lane when you can get ganked and die, this Lucian play is exceptional. Always taking as much as can possibly be taken with every sniff of an opportunity that K-Stars give him. Diving forward once again, 1 tower left alive. Furia trying to crash in a couple of waves. Again, no Baron, and they don't want to over push this. They seem to be taking this one with a little bit of reservation.
Culling back up and used right off cooldown, and Kissy did again.
Okay, maybe reservation was perhaps just waiting for the culling cooldown to come back up, RMC, and just like that, Furia will snap up this victory. They had to work pretty hard for this one. VKS had some chances, but Furia walk away 1-0 up in the series.
And Trajan, not unexpected, the performances we're seeing from both of these teams. I think K-Stars had a really clear game plan, and they were able to execute most of the time. Yes, Kissy was a little bit desynced, which definitely did hurt them at times, but the idea was there, and you could see the way they were finding picks. The problem was Furia's hands are just better, and they were able to find those picks. Ayu, the bounce back, as you talked about, was nutty. Man was struggling in the mid lane, getting picked over and over again, and it felt like he channeled all that pent-up aggression, just held it in, hit 4 items, was like, okay guys, I'm here, revenge, don't end too quickly, I want to pad my stats.
Yeah, and such is the value of the multi-threat comps that Furia are so partial to, when Gigo is already popping off when needed to in the fights, can carry them through that mid game, when Tattoo is quietly but assuredly building up gold, building that assassin potential as well, and Tut's just doing kind of the grunt work on the map, just taking up turrets, pushing out waves, not dying to ganks all the time. You know, this was a quiet one for Tuts, but I think sort of a quiet linchpin in keeping Furia up to speed on the map so they could actually make those plays later on.
Yeah, for sure. And now going into the rest of the series as well, Trajan, in best of 5s, especially with full Fearless, it often feels like blue side has an advantage because they can get those very rare treasured power picks. But I've said this about K-Stars before, and I think it holds doubly true in this particular matchup against Furia. Red side counter pick is so important. I think Gigo with that Olaf into the Gwen, masterful use of the Olaf, And with that top side, it's that lane is the volatile lane. Like Morteus and Ayu, they can play from behind. Bot lane's fine. Tuts, Kissy, we've seen them play utility before. But top side, Bull, that guy's a carry player. You need to give him a carry to unlock him. If he's down on a carry, it's hard for him to come back in. On the other side, Gigod or Gigon, the binary king up there. Yeah, I mean, you give him a counter pick, he's going to be Gigod. So going into game 2, I almost feel like Cade might want to kind of weigh and evaluate, is first pick better or is counter pick better? Is giving Bull a winning matchup kind of the key success in the series?
Yeah, I mean, that Gwen has been the signature bowl pick so far this split, and it just looked a little bit lifeless. It got shut up by the Olaf, looked like it was about to start doing things, but then the game was over, so we'll never know. We did not get to see it do anything, sadly, today. And in that jungle matchup, Tattoo having not necessarily the most frontline impactful game, but very solidly done. And Desamus as well. I think, as we said, the pressure was on his shoulders to make every culling or that's kind of foreshadowing, to make every paranoia count. But whenever he needed to do that, there was a culling in his face about 15 seconds before the opportunity was there. He never got a chance, it felt like, after 25 minutes. He was always being picked off first.
Yeah, if anything, that last culling that came through, which actually just straight up killed Desamus, kind of cracked me up a little bit, because before that, the threat was always like, okay, he can still soak the culling and still be a threat. In the end, I was just like, no, I'm just going to dump the entire culling into you, and you will not. If you dive me, that's not paranoia at that point. That's a legitimate fear that you should have had trying to dive into me, because I can 1v1 you.
Yeah, so score 1 for the youngest generation in game number 1 of the series here. Fury taking the lead. We're going to go to a break for now. We'll run a quick ad to get rid of any of those pre-rolls for our fresh new viewers, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with game number 2. And we are back here at the LTA South. It's time for game number 2 between Furia and VKS. A confident win for Furia in our first game. They drafted for early, they played for early, the hands were there. ThinkCard's declaration of hand superiority certainly came true in game 1.
For sure, and I do think part of that was also in draft, though. It was the Battle of Brains that kind of set us up for that stage. Furia has hands, and I feel like K-Star, CL, perhaps a little bit overconfident in his team's ability to just kind of scale into late without a proper bridge. So going into game 2, Trajan, we heard CL before saying that, you know, drafting isn't his strong suit. He thinks it's one of ThinkCard's strong suits, and he's learned from ThinkCard before. I think he learns for game 2 that he needs some sort of early game lane they can play through.
Yes, that would be potentially a start that we could see. Now, given the fact that we've had some kind of power picks taken off the board already, we've had the Bull Gwen that did not hit, we've had the Iolution that did get the win, but you know that has been very high prioritized for them. It's now no longer can be taken, and I'm wondering for bot lane, considering we saw another Zeri game just fall down the dirt as well for Mortea, so continually Zeri will just never get a win unless Brunsey can't even pull out anymore, can he?
That's not even fair. Hold on, pull up the post-game stats, because I thought Morteus did a good job on the Zeri. Like, yeah, there we go. He did the highest damage on his team.
Yeah, he did almost half the damage that IU did. And
you put it
you're
like
right.
that. Fine.
It is the most damage. It is the most damage, but you can just see, and like most of this damage from Lucian, I think happened in like the last 10 minutes. Very little of that was going on before, because he was struggling, as we'd said after game 1, that there were some positioning errors, a little bit of greed in the mid lane, and VKS were there with the punish. So it was far from a perfect game from Furia, but they show that never to say die attitude that has really become emblematic of them recently, where even in games where they're down, they will fight for every inch all the way to the Nexus exploding, whichever one it is.
And you can see around the 27 minute-ish mark from K-Stars, they did narrow the gap ever so slightly, but that's kind of where, you know, the bridge falls apart, or the lack of a bridge means that they can't quite get to the point where they needed to. Like you said, Morteus, a lot of that damage came towards the end of the game as he was scaling up. When he hit 3 items, got that Infinity Edge. But you can't give that much of a lead to Furia. This is a team that knows how to close out. When they hit the 27-minute mark, Furia just immediately just went, okay, we've hit the point where we can just brute force our wins, and we are just going to go for objective after objective into right game end. And IU got to pop off. We talked about Morteus' damage being high towards the end. I suspect IU's damage, a lot of it came towards the end as well, because remember the early game was a little bit rough for him in that mid lane, where he was getting pinned down by Kissy, by Desamis, by Trimby with some beautiful wall growths.
Yeah, for sure. Trimby's Lulu play was very solid. It definitely was a big part, I think, of them actually stabilizing VKS in that bot side, keeping IU from accelerating too quickly. But ultimately, I guess, the fact that IU, despite the fact that the way he was playing was not working before, it got to that certain item breakpoint around that 3 or 4 item mark, and then suddenly he was able to lead into every fight with the culling. We had questions of, Furia don't have tools to start fights. It's very hard for them to actually force a play. The engage tool is the culling, I guess, is Furia's primary engage, which ended up working because it would do 80% of someone's HP, and then VKS felt kind of obliged to force the issue now because they knew they weren't going to get away. You can't escape a Nami Lucian chasing after you, and they just had to stand and fight, and it did not work. Yeah,
and into game 2 draft here, K-Stars did opt for red side trading. That was one of the things we weren't sure whether or not it was more valuable for them for counter pick. It does give Furia first pick, and right now, Yone ban, Victor ban from Furia for the side of K-Stars. It's the Varus, it's the Jace. Rumble is still open. That is the third sort of the big top laner with 1 ban, 1 taken. I don't think there's a good answer for Rumble right now.
Yeah, so VKS they have taken the red side to go for that counter, as you kind of suspected might be the call right here. We'll see what that last first rotation ban is going to be. I'm wondering if we're going to see an MF option from either side now that we've gotten Lucian out of the way. We're still taking away Varus, and it's hard for a lot of other champions to actually contest the kind of Ezreal MF for the next 2 priorities going down the list. But whether they are going to be the first pick option, we will have to see. As the last ban for VKS is the Rumble.
Okay.
So they are going to deny it for now. And I guess the only other lane I'm wondering now is we've seen, as it might be the MF, is actually just going to be locked right there. So I'm going to take that. So what's the answer for Morteus now? Is it the Ezreal to try and play from range? Is there something else we can try and go for? The Kai'Sa's made it through bans this time, but not a long range champion lane.
No, and it's kind of risky to go Kai'Sa this early when things like Maokai are open, right? You can always go for Maokai and then pick the engage from the support role instead, and you've got double setup for Misfortune, which I believe is what she actually kind of requires. And then Kai'Sa gets put in a bad position. Yeah, they're just going to go for the buy instead, single target lockdown. They want to make sure Misfortune's not comfortable to be able to get her bullet time off and get the full value of that ultimate. And we've seen sort of the preference for Vi be Talia recently, but she's already been picked, and I'm wondering if we just see Vi Ahri come through.
Just Vi Ahri.
Yeah, the old school
I think
single target kill.
that's been Kissy's most successful champion as of late. He's had very good games on it, looks very good at the champion. It's classically paired with the Vi, and the stranger picks or the less common picks in this region have not been working out so well. However, it's not going to be the choice. They're going to go for the Jhin, so does have some range to at least try and hold the MF at arm's length, perhaps, but if we're looking for double setup, the Skarner is available for Tatu. He's going to see if we can flip between that and the Xin, so there's plenty of options in the jungle now. And is it worth taking the Ahri away for Tuts? It's also a successful champion for him, or I don't know.
I'm so confused about this. So normally you've been seeing Shin as an answer to the Misfortune, and I actually kind of forgot about it. But when we saw the Vi pick up, you don't have to worry about the Shin anymore. You can hold it for a later pick. And Shin is... There is dyssynergy between Xin Zhao and Misfortune. We talk about two pieces of setup for Misfortune. You've got -1 setup right now for Misfortune. I don't know what they're trying to do for IU here. Why are we first picking MF and then making life hard?
Yeah, we did in fact see the Ahri taken away from Tuts, so they've tried to deny that combination at least, and Tuts' Ahri I'm sure can slot into anything that they want, but not necessarily building around the MF thus far. The Rise is going to be the bit for Kissy. We have seen it a couple times from him. It gives some follow-up or lead-in CC, though it doesn't have quite as much backline access at the flick of a switch. You do have to kind of set up an ult play, but that can still dissuade an MF from standing and dropping the ultimate if the Rise ult appears under them. They're probably not going to want to stand in it.
Yeah, and I think I like the Rise into Ahri matchup as well. Sure, the early inning phase is not the most comfortable for Rise, but he eventually hits the point where he can survive the burst of Ahri, and more importantly, he can lock Ahri down, right? You try and Spirit Rush, I Rune Prison. You can do it mid-rush as well, so you can even burn the Spirit Rush stack away while locking her in basically in place. She might get a micro movement to come through. So I like the Rise pick. I like what K-Stars have right now in terms of individual answers into what Furia want. Furia need to set up Misfortune. You're looking for a top laner, and you're looking for a support right now. And if they don't have both AoE CC, IU's in for a rough game. K-Stars, they're also looking for support and top lane, but they get counter pick for Bull, which I think they should be saving until they see what Gigo has locked in.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the choice for Gigo is going to be. We have seen the occasional Cassante from one of these two, but that's not lockdown necessarily. It's more isolation. I'm thinking of top laners that they can drop out at this point that can actually assist them in this mission. Sion, perhaps? Yeah, I was thinking maybe the Ornn. Of course, blind Ornn, theoretically punishable, but a good Ornn player can kind of manage their way out of most situations, but not like a Fiora. If Bull decides to go, aha, an Ornn you say, I'm going to take my favorite answer to this one. So it's been support, bans through the second rotation, Rakan and Nautilus taken over VKS, Poppy as well, jungle, support, flexible, a top lane as well, to be honest, right? They could still offer that as well. The Camille taken over by Furia. So, to be honest, now we just need to see what the choice is going to be. We're assuming this is going to be the support, at least for Trimby, I think, in this this first pick for
and I think you want to lock Rel and deny the Rel away from Misfortune right from the get-go, because you've already taken away Nautilus and Rakan, so you're looking at Leona, Rel, and Alistar. I think Alistar's not particularly good setup for Misfortune, so yeah, pigeonhole her into the Leona, and I think Rel can kind of counter that. To the top side, the last ban that came through was Camille for Gigo, which is interesting because it's a Gigo champion. It is not a Bull champion. Bull has actually not played Camille this split. Okay, we're going to Alistar. Defensive, so, I guess.
Preempting the Rel counter, I suppose. Instead of trying to deny it, they're just going to say, well, you're probably going to take it, so we'll take the standard response, which is still solid with Jhin, at least, in a 2v2 sense. But whether Trimby is going to be able to keep Jojo out, effectively, while also potentially having to consider Ahri and Jhin as threats, and instead, we're gonna go to the Nico. So we have seen this once again come back more and more, and we used to see it just paired specifically with that Kalista. It was a Titan and Curry special, but now Jojo's bringing it out more and more. So no tank down there, but still a lot of AoE lockup.
Then they need a tank up top, Trajan. And that was the reason why I was looking at tank supports was more because the Jhin has already been locked in, and Jhin already does pretty well in lane against the Misfortune. And it's all squishies right now on the set of Furia.
For no reason whatsoever. Dude, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Okay, well, I'm a genius, I guess, guys.
It in a way.
I'm a genius for my sins. So it'll be, the answer is no lockup. The only lockup they have is Nico-E, Ari-E, and Nico ult. And I mean, I guess the Ambessa ult holds them in place for like 1 second. So not the easiest MF game for IU to play, we must be saying. And it's pretty easy to get kind of turned around and to struggle to find impact when you don't actually have a team that can help you do it.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's just straight up IU JoJo. The two of them have to make miracles happen. And granted, in terms of bot lanes, that is a strong bot lane who can kind of make things happen. But yeah, I just don't know if Ambessa was to pick here when you had to blind something. This composition from Furia, it's true to their style of damage overload. It's a lot of agency across the board. The only player without agency, ironically, is going to be IU, who has amazing hands and probably should be given agency. But Cade are able to answer it. I like their composition much better. Like we said, it's individual answers into everything that Furia want. And Jhin is going to have a pop-off game this game. There's no true tank on the other side. So his bouncing grenades are going to do a ton of work. He gets a lot of safety. Sure, there are ways for Ambessa to threaten that back line a little bit, but that's what the Alistar is there for. You've got all that PO, and meanwhile, you've got Vi for the engage. Renekton should win out early. Ryze should be able to skill up and answer the Ahri. Yeah, I think it just clashes down to it. If all hands are equal, Cade Stars have the advantage, but that's the catch. Are the hands equal?
CL admitting that he has actively learned and copied from drafting coming out of Furia, has been very impressed by the way ThinkCard drafts and has tried to learn from him, and we're pretty happy with the answers that K-Stars have put together against Furia in this game number 2. They'd love to stall out the momentum right now because Furia, heavily momentum, very emotional team. Yes, very skilled. Yes, very intelligent, but they do clearly wear the passion on their sleeves when they play, as do their fans, as we can see. So you don't want to let them get rolling into a 2-0 lead. And for Cade Stars, you know, they have been a team that they've been a little bit volatile. Sometimes they've looked completely put together. They've looked like the VKS of Split 2 last year. And sometimes they've looked disconnected and like the pieces aren't fitting together. It's not necessarily been easy to see a constant progression throughout this Split 2. We've had a number of sort of tripping hazards and hurdles that they've had to kind of set back and get back to on progress from.
Fair enough, but K-Stars themselves can be a massive tripping hazard if not respected. And with that, Trajan, we are on to...
Oh, no. I didn't know that when you pause here, it actually pauses the league director like that. That's cool. That's actually a fun fact that I had no idea of. Okay, well, so didn't quite make it in there. Looks like there's a problem with Trimby's computer. We have an official standing behind him right now, so I'm sure we'll solve that before too long.
That's funny too. It's like we're just getting hyped, we're getting onto the rift, and then immediately just crash out into pauses. It's rare in lands too. I feel like at the former CB Law arena, now LTA South arena, generally speaking, they've sorted out most of their issues. So hopefully we get an update on what exactly is going on. In the meantime, though, Trajan, let's talk a little bit about the players with the champions that they kind of do have as well, because this is going to be very player based, right? I think with the drops coming through, a lot of agency, not necessarily a lot of like team fighting or anything too special or coordination required from the teams aside from that misfortune. And I want to kind of put a magnifying lens over the mid lane, because last game Tuts kind of PvE'd for most of it with Celia, pardon me, and Kissy was the one who kind of was playing more for the team and frankly struggled a lot more. I do feel like the Annie use, the Tibbers use specifically, was an issue, and it was a timing issue. He never had it up for the team fights when he needed it. Now going into this game with the Ahri, it's less teamwork focused, so even if he burns his summon or his ultimate early, that's kind of on him. But I do feel like he's in a bit of a tough spot going up against this Ryze that Tuts has, and Tuts probably just going to PvE the early game again, and some Kissy to try and make use of the early Ahri shrink.
Yeah, it has. I was surprised, honestly, Tuts' damage was even as high as it was, just to how little we saw him actually on the same screen as another champion in that first game. I was like, when did he do this 17.5k? I feel like I didn't see him hit anybody once. But it was very essential work, somewhat thankless at times, but not the flashiest for sure. The Ahri at least gives him a little bit more room to flex, and we have seen those mechanics and that skill return kind of with a vengeance for Tuts this split, and the Ahri does give him room to prove that. And the answer for Kissy, I think, is good. I do like the Ryze coming into this. I think it's a good answer, as you've mentioned already. So with the Xin and the Vi, the Xin and the Ahri kind of linking up here, maybe we can see them take that 2v1, that 2v2. I think it's interesting for me that Tatu has not touched the Vi at all. doesn't want to see, doesn't want to know about it, hasn't picked it once, and almost everybody else has taken it at least once. And the ongoing debate as to whether people should even be taking it in pro has been raging kind of most of the year. But Tatu has completely said no, doesn't want to see it, doesn't think it's good, I suppose.
Fair enough, and I don't know how much of that is him versus sort of what Furia want to play for.
Maybe think cards like, nah, this champ sucks, do not pick.
Well, it's also, if you look at what Tatu has been playing, right? 7 games of Skarner, 4 games of Sejuani, 2 games of Jax, 2 games of Xin Zhao, 1 Lilia, 1 Wukong, 1 Pantheon. One of those champions stands out as a champion that doesn't fit the mold. Everything else is sort of AoE wombo combo team fight based, and then you've got Pantheon, who was more for the early game snowball. So I feel like it does. That is more of a team decision than a Tatu decision, because the fact that we only saw his first Neferi game now, if this was like back on Pain Gaming Academy, back on INTZ Academy, he's probably spamming that Neferi because it's a carry champion. And I think it's speaking to the evolution of Furia that they are willing to kind of try these different picks. And I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the playoffs, if Furia keep getting going along and gets more series in, that we do see Vi come through for Tatu at some point.
Yeah, because they've been doing even more than usual. I think it's been carries have been the choice for Gigo, it's been Rumble, it's been Jace. You know, it's been not necessarily, they're not getting that utility there. So you're right, I guess. Tatu just very, very successful on the Skarner, and the comp tends to demand it when Tatsuya and Gigo are all playing to some varying degree of smashing their opponent, and often doing so. So Tatu doing what is required and still able to rack up, you know, very high KDA, a lot of damage numbers, and is still kind of putting big figures up with those somewhat utilitous champions. But we have now seen the Neferi come out, so we are seeing that mold is starting to crack open just a little bit. And again, already in the early stage of Fearless, it's not like we've gone through Skarner, Sedge, Xin, and now, okay, it's game number 4, what are we doing? Now it's time for Neferi. They lead with the Neferi, and they leave the comfort still in the pocket for later on. Yeah,
and again, the Neferi pick, I find it funny that Tatu only played it after it got nerfed. Right? Like, back when it was meta, Tatu never touched it. And then now that it's been nerfed, he uses it to... he played well with it, but it wasn't the big carry for that.
Yeah, he wasn't the decider of that game. He didn't make any major mistakes and was doing more or less what he was supposed to do, but was not... was not leading the charge necessarily. It was mainly on cleanup duty, which Neferi is exceptional at, you know, as a champion. Is very, very good at cleaning up.
Okay, folks, we still don't have an update on what exactly is going on with this pause, unfortunately. Again, it is on the side of K-Stars that something has happened right now, and we're just kind of waiting to see how it resolves. Hopefully it should be fast. I heard some people say it might be a peripheral issue, but I'm not. That's not been confirmed, so I'm still kind of just waiting to see. If anybody in chat knows what's happening, please do feel free to inform us as well. So that we know what's going on.
We've seen a League Ops official running off the stage with a set of headphones in their hands, then, you know, rummaging in the box in the back for a fresh set. Then maybe we'll get a sense of that. It seems like they are still in game, as I've got the main street open to see the stage cameras, and they are still they've not had to reset the lobby or anything like this. I think they might have actually just reset the timer, if my eyes don't deceive me, so we may get back in before too long. But yeah, this game as well with the Xin into the Vi, given that we've been focusing on this jungle matchup, we know at least that the Vi, despite the fact that Tatu doesn't want to touch it, how do we think he should be playing into it? Who is actually going to get the lead in this early jungle? Both of them are solid skirmishers.
Yeah, traditionally Xin Zhao has been an early game champion. His level 2, level 3 strength is very, very high. The problem is, Trajan, it feels like everybody's forgotten about that, and we don't see early game Xin Zhao ganks anymore. To be fair to Tatu on the Xin Zhao, there are lanes for him to go to. Oh, actually, I just realized I've had the team swap the entire time. It's VKS on the red side, so it's Tatu on Xin Zhao, and it's the Samus and Vi.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why in my head I had that swap, so I kept thinking it was like, oh, the first Vi performance with Tatu. It's not. Never mind.
Nope.
It's Xin Zhao. He's still perfectly normal. Okay, that's, very, very basic normal. Okay, that gives me a bit more hope, because Tatu is a bit more of an aggressive early jungler, but we've seen a lot of Xin Zhaos kind of go just full clear into team fights more than anything else, and I hate to see that. You've got a Nico in that bot lane, that's set up. You've got Ari in the mid lane as well. That 2v2 favors you heavily until Ryze really starts to hit 2 items when he's got the Serap's Embrace and Rod of Ages available. Prior to that, kill threat. So I want to see Tatu take advantage of that, look for that sort of aggressive ganks and or invades. If the lanes win for Furia, which they did last game, if you have Prio, go punish the Samus, because Vi is a great ganker, not so much of a duelist.
Yeah, absolutely. I can check from the main broadcast. From what I can tell, it looks like they are actually remaking the lobby, judging from the text on screen. So given that we paused straight in, that kind of suggests didn't set my runes right, didn't pick the right summoners, that kind of pre-lobby goof. So we will see potentially just a bug on the client. Maybe one of the players couldn't load in. So they'll get that done as soon as possible. But for now, so if we're expecting that out of the jungle matchup, from top lane, we have... What is our top lane matchup? We have Ambessa versus Renekton. So, Renekton, I believe, is traditionally, for as long been considered, at least a moderate counter to Ambessa. Not to an unwinnable degree, but certainly is expected to win. Now, last time it was Gigo with the counter, who made great use of it. Solo killed Bowl, was over a K ahead by the 10-minute mark, and never really dropped anywhere near below that again. So now we have Bowl with a chance to actually redeem a little bit, right? With a counter matchup to try and keep Gigo down, and this Ambessa that I had sadly summoned into existence that doesn't necessarily do much for the comp of Furia, and if it's behind, I fear this might be a complete Gigon game, because I don't think the Ambessa does anything for anyone else, and if it can't do anything for itself, then what's it gonna do?
Well, I guess the Ambessa is partially a threat into the Jhin backline, right? Because Jhin, especially in pro play, oftentimes doesn't really get into the fight proper. He often opens up from a screen away with the curtain call, and it's ironic when the name curtain call is meant to denote the end of a performance, and yet oftentimes here in League of Legends it is the opener of a performance, or sort of how Jhin starts things off at any rate, and then everything I guess after that is the after party. So Gigo picking this one is sort of a dive threat to get into the backline to be able to kind of hunt him down, and once the Jhin is dead, one thing we didn't touch on is Katestar's damage profile is not terribly high. It's a lot of slower sustained damage in a way, or the physical damage
doesn't really have DPS.
Through. Yeah,
like if Jin's ahead, it can burst a bit. Renekton ahead, building a certain way can burst a bit. But if you don't kill them, you have to wait to reel it up again. You can't necessarily do like a Zir or Lucian or Zeri, and you can actually pump out constant damage through the fight.
Yeah, a lot of it is on Ryze's shoulders at that point, once Jhin kind of goes down, because Renekton, sure, he's a bit of a threat, but he's a bruiser at the end of the day. Part of his job is to just be tanky and survive. So I think the big threat is to remove the Jhin and then play through the rest of the fight, even if IU isn't on what I'm going to call traditional marksman, since MF, a lot of her power is tied to just the ultimate on bullet time. But she's still going to be able to pump out more physical damage than a Renekton or a Vi is going to be able to do. So I suspect that's the idea there. And then later on as well, Ambessa, her scaling, he had to blind the pick, remember that. So he wanted something that could scale up and potentially win most 1v1s, or at least have a chance to win the 1v1s. Because even into the likes of a Camille, which is the counter pick that Gigo actually ran into Bull the last time they met, and Bull wasn't the Ambessa, there's still avenues for the Ambessa to play through. It's not just like 100-0 chance that Camille wins every single time. It's closer to like a 60-40 matchup where there's still ways for Ambessa to play things through.
Yeah, for sure. We did see the Camille banned away in that second rotation by VKS, not wanting to give Gigo the chance to pull out a known option for him there. I'm trying to check what I keep forgetting what they drafted in each lane, despite the fact that as soon as I look away from it, my brain it slides off. But so for this, I guess this Nico in bot lane as well, right? We see the Nico paired with the MF not infrequently now. We have seen this pulled out a couple times. And I guess what is your thoughts on taking the Nico as opposed to Rel, as opposed to Nautilus, as opposed to a more traditional tanky engager, considering it's into an Alistair? I guess what do you think is the sort of the thought process behind that and the evaluation of that choice from Jojo?
Yeah, so when it came in, it's a good pick. I think Nico as a support has shown her strength, not just in terms of AoE, but her laning prowess as well, because I do think engage supports are a little bit overrated, and in general, the South has traditionally really hesitated to move away from the tanky engagers. They've always loved them.
Yeah.
But the problem with the Nico pick, like I said, is not so much in lane. The 2v2 is going to be great. I trust that Jojo can set up for IU very, very well. Has done so in the past. In fact, this was the same bot lane they ran the last time they played into Katestars in the positioning phase, and IU and Jojo won a combined 10, 2, and 12. So the bot lane's fine. The bigger question, or the bigger issue, is what happens later on in the team fights. Like, Jojo will be able to find the initiates, and then what? You get bursted down, you die. And if you don't find the Jin especially is going to be able to absolutely punish the likes of a Misfortune and a Nico. And that's not just in team fights either. In terms of pick potential, using Curtain Call to find Misfortune, find Nico, could be good ways to find these picks for the side of K-Stars. And that's what worked for them in game one, was the picks with the Samus, with Kissy, and now you're looking at Morteus to kind of set up those picks with the Samus now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will see how they can operate this one and who's going to take that early lead. Of course, Furia, with the momentum into this game, we are sadly still waiting for this tech pause to be resolved. So we're going to go to a short break for now, and we'll just jump back. As soon as the game is live, we'll be back live. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to throw it to a quick break for now, and we'll be back when game number 2 kicks off. Keep their momentum building, our VKS, with another set of good answers right here. Good answers into every lane by your estimation, if they can actually put a stop to the Furia energy and slow them down for once.
Yeah, and right from the get-go, you know, we talked about early game Shin. Tatu waltzes into K-Star's jungle in the face of the Samus. They don't even say hi. They don't trade damage. Tatu literally just walks in, drops a board, and walks right back out.
Well, that's some aura farming right there from Tatu. Absolutely massive from the rookie jungler here into the second most rookie jungler across the rift from them in the region right now. Samus getting slightly mugged.
Well, what are these Gen Alpha terms, Trajan?
Listen, I've got my finger on the pulse, okay? Granddad, like, I'm
okay, is that what mogging is, with your finger on the pulse?
Yeah, that's what it means. It means to check your pulse. Okay, so these lanes are going to start crashing. We're expecting Bowl to have an advantage early on in that lane. We're probably expecting a bit of PvE. Tuts, as Kissy is already trying to get aggressive as well, trying to make use of this rise where they can. And bot lane, bit of a mystery, to be honest. We do have double range for Ayu and Jojo, but Alistar can knock that Nico away, and we'll see if Ayu can use the classically lane dominant MF to get some leads here.
Okay, I should probably correct myself. I know I said Tuts PvE. That was because I had the team swapped in my head, and I thought Furia was on the red side.
Oh,
and
okay, a bit of Kissy PvE. Yeah, and Tuts trying to play the game. There we go.
That was my bad. I mean, Rise can't win out early. He does take time to skill. He skills more off items than he does off levels. So he really does need that 2-item power spike, you know, with the Seraph's Embrace and Rod of Ages completed. Whereas Tuts needs to PvP early. If he PvEs, he's going to find himself in trouble because he does not skill as well. And Rise is a counter, like we talked about, the ability to just lock down the Ares. So Tuts wants to trade heavily, wants to get him low, and wants to set Tatu up for a drive-by gank.
Both junglers pathing up towards that top side thus far. They already have 2 wards for VKS, 3 across the river. A lot of early vision being put down. They want to keep an eye on where Tatu is going to go. And with Kissy and Bowl pushing up, we can see why.
Yeah, really good respect for what a Xin Zhao can do in the early game, and the fact that your Vi is not going to be able to match. Across the lanes as well, it is kind of dicey. Yes, Renekton is stronger than Mbessa early, but Renekton still doesn't fancy a 1v2 situation pre-6 without Dominus, and every other lane for K-Stars is vulnerable. So yeah, just a lot of safe defensive play to start this game. Try and buy time to Samus to hit 6 and then look for those cease and desist ganks.
Ayu pushing up again, and another aggressive barrier. Same thing Morteus did last game. I'm not sure if it was needed. It's at least traded with a Trimby heal.
Yeah, so defensive summon is kind of traded. Jojo still has his heal, and Morteus with the cleanse. It's not really a combat or a laning combat summoner necessarily. That's much more important later on. Tatu finding Desamus right now because he has no mana.
In early with the knock-up. Tuts as well. Neither of the mid laners can really do anything but watch right here. And Tatu's going to keep this chase going. He lands the audacious charge again. And Desamus is kind of stressing out Kissy. Not sure what he can do, but he has to do something. Desamus will live, but he's pushed right out of his jungle.
And in this clash between the Warriors and the Panthers, who's the hunter, who's the prey, man? Tatu's owning the jungle. I guess it makes sense. Panthers in the jungle, right? Natural habitat. And he's just got that killer instinct. They are looking for Kissy.
Oh, dear. Oh dear, has to insta-flash away. There is a charm, there is a Q. They have the damage, not for the kill, but that's going to push Kissy right back out of this lane again. And he lost the flash for his trouble. Yeah,
he's got no sums coming back to lane with 1/3 of his health. And Trajan, I know we were talking a little bit about, okay, yeah, you know, Tuts needs to trade heavily so that Tatu can do a drive-by. Tuts traded hard enough that Kissy had to base. And when Kissy came back in, the drive-by was ready and waiting. Tatu barely loses any tempo for that play.
Samus waiting for an angle on bot side as Tatu has instead gone to start the Krug, so not far, but certainly not as close. Trimby looking for it, flashes in, gets the flash from Ayu, and a lovely trade of summoners down there for Cade.
Hex Flash still available for Trimby, so he's happy to make that particular play. Jojo backing out wisely the moment they saw the aggression start to come through. Now, do we see Tatu with the counterplay into this bot side actually just opting, okay, because his chicken syrup's still up. He's got to go for his Raptors instead, and that does mean bot lane might remain in isolation again.
Back to this mid lane, back to farming out all of that excitement from early on. Both have now backed TP'd and are back on full HP, but a small lead opened up here for Tuts of about a wave. So Furia, again, starting the customary small lane leads growing as they tend to do, but we'll see if VKS can actually handle them here. Good matchups or not, Furia are still playing hot, and the Cade Stars need to get warmed up fast or they're going to lose control of the series.
Yeah, and actually props to Kissy for only being down a handful of minions considering the TP debacle. He finds a really good time to actually get his base off, not miss out too many minions, and come back to lane kind of fully reset, ready to go. And for Tuts, a little bit unfortunate that that's the case. As the game goes on as well, the window for Tuts, I know I keep going back to this mid lane, but I do feel like it's the most impactful lane matchup.
Where is Ayu going? Ayu is
going
going
for
top
lane
lane.
Swap. Yeah, early
On
lane
foot.
swap.
Because it seems like, by the way he was pathing through the base, it seems like a snap decision after he'd come out. He had to pivot up to that swap here. So we are going to see Gigo, who's got level 6, is going to step back to base. No TP, he's going to have to walk out. Should be able to get to bot lane before that wave arrives anywhere. I think it actually might be pushing back towards Cade Stars. I can't tell from the minimap. But yeah, a little interesting swap there for Furia. Does give a little bit of a lead over to VKS while the time taken for Furia away from the waves. But let's see what the theory is going to be and how they play this out.
You know, Tristan, I still don't understand why we're seeing 6-minute lane swaps coming in post grub change. Like Dragon's up.
Yeah.
Do we not want that first before we rotate for grubs?
I don't know. I mean, it seemed like the matchups were actually going quite fine for Furia, given especially they weren't supposed to be that good, especially in topside. They were choosing to swap it out anyway, and are now going to put Gigo still in the same matchup because they've just swapped the bot lanes over. So it is going to be that old style. We're going to put all the bot lanes up here and fight for grubs on spawn. But VKS are going to be the ones taking control of this river at first. And with Tatu on bot side, I mean, maybe he just goes and does the dragon. I'm not sure. We have to see what the jungler's choices are going to be.
I mean, Tatu shouldn't be able to do the dragon because Gigo is the weaker side in this bot lane matchup. So, which is now, well, yeah, bot lane matchup. They're in the bot lane now. So theoretically,
yeah,
both should always have first move advantage onto that. And Desamus, once he hits 6 as well, the 2v2 swings at that point. Like pre-6, Xin Zhao is the better side of the 2v2. Post-6, I'm not going to say it's the worst side, but it's much more balanced. And then it becomes who has the advantage in the lanes instead.
Tuts with a flubbed charm going backwards right here means he's going to take a fat chunk of damage from Mateus and Trimby. Thankfully manages to escape the 4th shot and stays above half, but not ideal for him. Gigo being drawn into a play down in bot side. Desamus with the ultimate. If Gigo steps further away from the tower, this could get pretty ugly for him.
He's going to. This is Gigo. It's just a matter of time.
Dashes back, a flash in from Bold. They pull the trigger, but they're under the tower. The ult is committed. Giga with a flash, and he's going to survive. Ambessa again will slip away.
Honestly, it didn't even feel that close. Cade Star's just lacking the damage to be able to get the last bit of burst down, and Desamus burning everything. Used the Bolt Breaker and Flash to gap close, and then using the Cease and Desist meant like just not enough damage in the tank. The ability is being used for utility rather than damage, and that gives Furia this window. They saw Desamus down bot. That gives them the free grubs. And Trajan, Dragon wasn't done. I don't know if
Yep.
VKS can comfortably do it now, so Furia might be able to walk away with all the early game objectives.
Yeah, a trade of potential first blood now not giving as much bonus gold as it used to for
Okay.
Grubs. They are going to start off in VKS. They're on Vision. Now, it looks like Tatu is still working on the blue buff, so we should still, I imagine, trade this off. Furia's not going to contest it.
Wow.
But they would have loved to have the first blood and the dragon if they could.
Yeah, I mean, Gigo has teleport available. There is a ward in the pit. I do think Furia could have contested that, and even if they don't get the dragon, probably pick up some kills on the back end of things. But this deciding to kind of play it safe a little bit. We saw this towards the end of the last game, where they were happy to sit back knowing that they were stronger, and I guess it continues into this game. Tatu able to take away the Raptors in the face of Trimby. I mean, Trimby's a support. He can disrupt you, but he can't. Him stealing the camps would have been huge.
Yeah, there were no flashes for Desamis Bowl. There was no ults for Desamis. Yeah, I mean, it felt like a fight that they could have taken when Tatu could have taken it as Trimby's forced to ult himself, as the rest of Furia have dived deep into the jungle here, committing their own Arkeys to try and get this kill on an Alistair. There's a full bullet time channel. Nobody can stop him, and IU, difficult as this game is for MF, he's opened up his first ult with a bang.
And we've said this before, we'll say it again. It feels like there are two players in LTA South who can pivot or play Misfortune without proper setup, and that's Titan and IU. And IU does it again. This time, to be fair, JoJo's setup was beautiful, but it's the timing of it. They're not opening up with the bullet time. They're waiting for mobility spells to be used from Cade Stars, and once you have no escape, that's when bullet time rains down. Speaking of no escape, Bull sees both JoJo and Tatu in the area. He's just trying to waste their time, and in fact, Desamis is actually coming down. They're pinging this one out, and now that the back has come through from JoJo, they have numbers advantage up here.
Flashing away, actually, in the river. Morteus was coming up from mid as well. Could have gotten hairy for the Xinjiao with no ultimate. Burns the summoner, doesn't want to ask that question. And Gigo currently pinned under the tower by Bull. So VKS, they have gotten control of this top side for now. JoJo's going to see what he can do, but looks like Furia are happy to give the respect for now.
DP challenge to the bot lane from Tuts. Rod of Ages picked up. Kissy still sat on a tier, and Catalyst and Tatu looking for Bo. Dominus is available for Renekton, so I don't think a kill is likely. They're probably just trying to burn the ultimate before anything else happens, but there's no real objectives to be fighting over. So yeah, both these teams just kind of feeling kind of just hyphy more than anything else and wanting to try and set up ganks.
Yeah, and Fury are the ones with those first items coming through. You mentioned the Rod of Aegis bot. There's the Bloodthirster for IU as well, so he's got that survivability plus the damage. I think VKS probably want to just pump the brakes until they can get something. For Kissy, at least, would love to get the Rod of Aegis done.
Yeah, it does need that stacking to really start to snowball anything for the side of Cade Stars. And that does mean that they'll probably slow down the pace. We get to see the fight, the only kills we've seen in this game, Trajan, and it's Trimby getting caught out in his own jungle. He has to use the Unbreakable early, and Cade Stars are collapsing in, but Furia just collapsed faster, and it's coming from the pressure they have in their lanes. The fact that Gigo was able to get out, and you can see, again, the delayed bullet time from IU as cleanup, especially early on. If you're not fighting for an objective, it is probably much better to hold that ultimate for cleanup duty to secure those kills. If you're at an objective, burn it early for control over the objective, because you're fighting the objectives, but up there, it was just straight kills, and Furia time it to perfection.
Trimby getting some vision on the bot side. The Morteus, both the bot lanes still plugged into that mid lane right now. Just farming it away, happy as can be. Mid laners in bot and top laners back in top of all places. So still a bit of time before the Herald and the next Drake spawn. So VKS are the ones with a Vi ult, with a Jhin ult to set up from range, of potential playmaking tools right here. Furia with the Ari ult, the JoJo, Nico ult as well. So both sides have options to try and look for a pick before those objectives come around. But Furia, they've got a nice 1.5k gold lead plus the grubs for themselves. There is not as much rush on the miss game as I think they might have felt there was last time.
For sure, yeah. Cade Stars can definitely, both these teams, I think, can kind of take their time a little bit, especially Cade Stars. But for Cade Stars, yes, they've kind of hit the right level power spikes, the ability power spikes, and I do want to see Desamis gank a lane soon, but they need to complete items first. Furia almost across the board has their first items. Only JoJo as support on a support budget hasn't completed first item. You look at Cade Stars, Black Cleaver just came through for Bull, Rod of Ages just came through from Kissy, and now they're just waiting for Morteus. Once Morteus picks up that first item, that's when you pull the trigger. There's a lot of vulnerable lanes. IU and JoJo especially come to mind. When you've got something like a Vi, you can absolutely just burst them down. There's no tank there, and the mobility is rather limited to just summoners.
Still waiting for any of the feats to come through. A third kill for Furia could secure it. Another couple of jungle camps or monster camps for either side, or that first turret, neither of which are particularly threatened right now. But as those first items come in, the Infinity Edge has been completed now for Morteus. We're starting to get piecemeal for the second coming in for Furia. Another Codex in inventory for Tuts. Tatu starting to work on some defensive items, and Gigo ulting onto Bowl. In fact, with Jojo and I coming around the corner, looking for a bit of lockup. They flash away from the roots on the E, so Bowl survives for now. Trimby on the front line to support. Tatu's going to come around the corner, though. Another Furia top lane dive in the works, everybody, but the Trimby ult is forced out early. They're not going to cook it too fast.
If there's one criticism I have of the way Furia plays, it's their dives. They keep just throwing good after bad. I guess it's sunk cost fallacy.
There's the ultimate, the bullet time not in the right position, but the Nico ult is, and they will secure that first one. Trimby, of all people, gets away despite not having the ultimate, and another trade for Dragon in bot side. The Samus will be uncontested there.
Okay, they pulled off though, Trajan. I was genuinely worried that the dive was gonna go south with Dominus available, with an Alistar to complicate matters, but Furia actually pulled off. They do, however, lose on the Dragon. That is the opportunity cost for this topside play. It is going to be first turret for Dragon. I think Furia's okay with that. They are the team that's looking to snowball to take advantage of the early game. They don't care about giving over, 1, 2 Drakes, heck, even 3 Drakes if they're confident they can kind of sweep the rest of it. And for K-Stars, they're going to be okay with what happened up there too. Yes, they did end up losing Bull, which is not ideal. That was sort of the early game bridge. But just slowing down the game and getting themselves to Dragon stacking is a potential win con. Chemtech, the Drake, and K-Stars have a lot of champions who can take advantage of that Chemtech Drake.
Yep, absolutely. So they have the lead on the Drakes to play with. Furia, of course, heading up to those top side objectives. Their favorite in all the world. Another Rift Herald to be focused on by them. And VKS in the area, scouting it out to see if they can maybe do something about this. They do have a Vial to play with. A clone baits a shot from Morteus and a TP up from Kissy. VKS want to try and make a play here.
Gigo has teleport as well to match if he wants to use it. There's an interesting ward quite deep behind them actually if they want to go for a flank play, but instead it looks like Furia more than happy to just reset that Herald. They've got Gigo again pushing on the bot side, and this is immediate gold versus future gold, right? Like Shelly, there's a potential that she doesn't get a turret, whereas if Gigo can get this right up, he wins. He's teleporting.
Here comes the TP. He's not going for the turret, but Tuts is now on the flank right here. Gets one, but has put himself in danger. Can he get to safety?
Jojo!
And Jojo in with the 3-man pop blossom. And it's another big fight for the Furious support. The ultimate for Morteus cannot find purchase. Kissy chased to the wrong side of the map. And Furia draw them in, back away, and then close the trap on the K-Stars.
A 3 for 0 and some chip damage on the bot side as well. Gigo actually got all the way to the turret before the teleport. And kills? Plates plus Shelly. Furia very, very happy right now. 4,500 gold before they start taking more turrets. Morteus taking the bullet time. Does flash away to safety, but it did get real dicey. I think Morteus was wondering if he could actually walk out of it. Answer is no.
Yeah, I keeping him on his toes right there. ThinkCard and on social media beforehand said that they felt that they were very well prepared against this specific team. It's been a flaw in their game for the past, but today they are looking well oiled. They are looking like they know exactly what they can make VKS do.
Yeah, and exactly what they can do is exactly what K-Stars don't seem to know. Right, they collapse in first on Tuts, and they don't kill Tuts, and they've fully committed now into this really, really awkward position, and they just get split up. You can tell the moment they didn't kill Tuts, the moment Jojo gets that pop blossom off on multiple members, it's every man for himself on the side of K-Stars and Trimby right now, trying to communicate to the team. He's been the leader for this team, and right now they're kind of in panic mode. 0-6 Trajan. This was not the scoreline I expected between these two teams. On paper, it was supposed to be close. It was supposed to be competitive. On the Rift, it's been very one-sided.
It's a washout so far in game number 2, and Furia looking like they are rolling faster and faster. 5k lead before the 18-minute mark. It's a rare sight, but less so in a Furia game. Tuts, however, about to be on the receiving end for another deep gank, commits the Spirit Rush to safety, and DeSamus doesn't quite have a cease and desist to lock him down as bot lane towers falling for Furia. Kissy now in a bit of a fist fight with Ayu in the mid lane, but isn't doing too hot against the 2-item misfortune.
No, you've got a Rod of Ages, but you're still stacking up. And meanwhile, Ayu sat on Bloodthirster plus Essence Reaver. And Gigo Tatu with Shelly gets a charge down bot. That's an inner turret. Where is Gigo taking this one? Into the mid lane. He's running 980 health on Herald. Is not a lot, but K-Stars can't defend this.
Plays it close to the wall, but does not crash it too early. 2 more turrets fall, and the gold lead just went up 2,000 in the last 45 seconds. What is going on? Furia are starting to kick into high gear, and this is the Furia we love to see. The Furia that gives us hope for LTA South. When they get a lead and they start stringing objective plays together, they just look unstoppable.
Yeah, the Furia that's clean, Trajan. Pre-20 minutes, and we're already seeing all the outer turrets down. Bot side inner already completely taken off the map as well. And for K-Stars, this is important that they're losing all these turrets because they're losing map space. They're losing any sort of safety to play towards. And with the snowball that's coming through from Furia, with the gold they're getting as well, with a Xinjiao, with an Mbessa, with an Ari, diving is very possible. If they can land any sort of CC into the charm to pull you out from the turret, they take a kill and then they can force a 5v4. Not to mention bullet time now, it's not just a teamfight tool. You can use it to push people off the turrets. If you position right, you just strafe the entire lane, and then all of K-Stars just has to walk away. It becomes a zoning tool more than a teamfight tool.
Furia doing a bit of due diligence, trying to clear out some vision, these Jin traps as well. We'll give VKS a good idea of what's going on right now. Chemtech Drake up in a couple of seconds. Could be a chance for Furia to start stacking those up. We can see Ayu and Tatu heading down that way themselves right now. 20 seconds on the Atakan as well. If Furia are going to play as we expect, we'd expect them to see them try and take everything. They do not trade objectives, this team. They want to take them all.
Yeah, do they need the dragon? No. In fact, I don't think we're going to see a dragon soul before Furia closes out this game. But it's more just going through that checklist.
They want it. They want the dragon. They want everything. As Tatu now finding an aggressive move onto Kissy. Cannot connect with the wind becomes lightning, and a super blast gun gets Rise to safety.
That's fine. I mean, as Tatu, the fact that you're able to just push Kissy out right now, you're just establishing dominance and making sure that you have control over neutral areas. And yes, I'm aware that's K-Star's jungle. No, it's not theirs anymore. It's neutral jungle. Like, Kissy does not have backup walking into that. The Samus sees the clone, doesn't know it's the clone, but has a pretty good suspicion. And K-Stars, they need to get vision around this Atakan because that's the comeback point for them. If you give up this Atakan for free, it's not game over, but it does make the snowball harder. Ideally, Cade are just looking for picks at this point. If somebody walks in from Furia to drop vision, you look for them, you try and take them off the map, you try and get a numbers advantage and claw your way back in. It starts with 1 kill, when right now K-Stars have none.
It has been another relatively PvE game for Tuts as well. Despite them misspeaking in the pregame, it was actually prophetic because it is a 0-0 into Ari who is picking up side lanes, who's avoiding ganks, doing essentially what Tuts was doing last time, but he's not doing anything wrong. He's not making any mistakes. He's keeping the map propped up while Furia focus elsewhere. Now they are TPing in to try and get set up with this Atakan, and we'll see if they want to TP in Gigo early or late. They've got him back on the bot lane as they did last time.
Yeah, good solid setup coming from Furia. They've got Gigo on TP on the other side of the map. They're just clearing out vision right now and continue doing so with the control wards. K-Stars have to walk into the jungle, and we're saying K-Stars need to do this, but Furia is the one putting on a clinic.
Gigo popping the recall, is going to TP in nice and early, completes that Spear of Shojin as well, ready to get stuck in as the Atakan drops lower. VKS have arrived, but Trimby barely escapes, having just tried to checker brush through a ward, pops the ult and limps away, and the rest of VKS flee with him.
I'm going to be honest, if Fury wanted that kill, they had that kill. But they are focused on the objectives, they're focused on winning this game clean, and they're happy to just burn the Unbreakable, force Trimby out, and then go for this siege. Now, Gigo did TP up to the rest of the team as well, so they're going to see what they can answer, or what they can get here, while Kissy's trying to answer bot side.
Continue Grub's empowered push. Another inner turret falls for Furia. The gold lead continues to grow. Rise at least will be able to get something on the bot side, pick up an objective bounty for VKS, and try desperately to reach that second item point where we can start see the Rise do some work here. But with VKS this far behind, the issue you had raised, the lack of potential damage, is going to be amplified.
Yeah, when you're behind, it always feels really, really bad. Now, okay, Seraph's Embrace is completed for Kissy in less than a minute. Rod of Ages is going to be fully stacked. Normally, this is when, if you're K-Stars, you're like, okay, we are good to go. We can start fighting. But as you pointed out, 6.7k down. Level leads, it feels like, for Furia as well. 2 levels for Tuts over their lane opponent. Tatu, 2 levels over to Samus. The bot lane, 2 levels for Jojo, 1 level for Ayu. Yes, K-Stars have hit their breakpoint, but they are so far behind that they are still going to have to play 4 picks more than anything else. And I'm looking at Morteus, I'm looking at Desamis. These two have the pick tools that K-Stars have in their composition, need in their composition, but I'm not confident that they're going to be able to find isolated Fury members.
Seems to be just running out of options and ideas for VKS. No windows are being left open. No steps are being skipped by Furia. They're not getting lazy, not getting greedy. They are playing efficiently and effectively with their lead, as we know they love to do. Still sitting around 7,000 gold is there, so they've stopped that dragon stacking before, as we mentioned. So the next target, the next item on the docket, I suppose, is going to end up being the Baron at this rate, as it's pretty hard for Furia to just push the waves in. It's hard to do that safely, but with a Baron as an option for them to pick another one of these good fights in the top lane river and then make those side lane pushes hurt even more, that could be the last moment for VKS to hold on here.
Honestly, with the immaculate pressure that Furia have been putting down, they could go for Baron and Dragon at the same time. Like, you could just leave Gigo split pushing in the bot side, where he's already starting to win out over this Renekton. He's hit the point where he kind of wins that out. And Gigo should just go for Dragon while the rest of Furia threaten Baron. And Gigo, his TP won't be up in time, I don't believe. But it should be a pretty close run thing. So if they stall for a little bit of time, Gigo would also have the time to re-engage with the team. Speaking of re-engage, Tata's going in.
Forcing it. Jojo with another. Oh, only catches one. Morteus has an angle. Desamis is in deep onto the carries, but Jojo is eating the shots. And they can't get the critical targets. Furia now with nothing stopping them from diving forward. 3 kills secured. Baron's not even live yet, and they might have a window into the base.
Yep, quick pit stop away from the objectives. They're going to go for turrets, because why not? Nothing else is on the rift. And what a wonderful fight from Furia as well. Tatu, 0 fear, 0 hesitation, just kind of getting it right in there. And I use ultimate. That bullet time, again, zoning ultimate that we talked about. Kissy could not go in to bail Trimby out. Trimby was eating the bulk of that damage, and Desamis was just up a creek with no team, no paddle, no help in sight. Furia with the inner mid lane turret, and they've fully collapsed onto Baron.
9-0 the kill score. The Baron already being taken. Desamis only off the fountain. Nothing he can do. Furia with a little swift turnaround should be able to base, come back on the map, get another Drake to avoid a potential soul, just completely shut the rest of Cade Stars out. This has been a massive step forward from what was already a dominant game 1.
You know, just yesterday, Trajan, in game 3, Pain was up against Loud, I believe, 10-0 at one point, and I thought, that's the cleanest game I've seen so far in LTA South this year. And just a day later, not even 24 hours later, Furia refreshing that record. 9-0, 10k goldie at 25 minutes. And like you said, they're just not giving Cade Stars any opportunities to do anything. That's what impresses me the most. Like, I don't see a way back in for Cade Stars, not because Cade Stars can't do it, not because I don't think they have the skill to execute a comeback, but because Furia just aren't giving them space. Even the way they split push has been so incredibly well done. Gigo has Tuts in his back pocket with TP as well, and what does Cade have to commit? The vision has always been there for a lot of these split pushes, and now Furia, they're not even going for Dragon right now. They're trying to maximize the Baron push. Like I said, I don't think Dragon matters this game, so they'd rather just push their waves in, kind of go for that 4-1. Gigo actually recalling right now. I think he's just going to answer Kissy on the side. Instead of trying to accelerate the lead, they're just trying to make sure Cade Stars don't even have a chance to pick up any of these objective bounties.
Here comes the push, crashing into bot side and mid lane as well. Kissy pulling the recall to try and get back and help the team in any way that he can. Gigo will be keeping an eye on a possible teleport, but Furia keeping it nice and controlled, crashing those waves but stepping well back, not leaving an opportunity for an engagement. They have time to spare to get these turrets down.
And the siege cannon down bot right now is just chipping away. Gigo actually teleporting here. They want to see if there's an angle for a dive. If Cade Stars try to defend on this bot side, they're going to get caught out. And meanwhile, Tuts still pushing in mid.
Absolutely. The rest of VKS more around that mid lane turret for now, but they cannot control it. The inhib now being chipped away. There's the dive in from Gigo. It's only onto the support, but they found another angle. They've caught out Kissy with the charm from Tuts, and now Ayu's ultimate again doesn't find any targets. But Rise, locked in stasis, will not find his way out. Another dash forward, a charm onto Trimby, but he gets forward with the knock-up. The turrets could maybe do some work for VKS here. They do get 1 kill. It's not going to be a clean sheet, but it might just be that, and the game ends. A single kill, the consolation prize. A second in the pocket for Cade Stars as their Nexus will fall at the back.
And the beautiful farewell kiss from Tuts to Morteus, I feel like, tells the story of this game. It was just that clean. It was just that beautiful. And Tatu, I love the man. He's got so much charisma with the cameras, playing with the cameras again, shrugging, like saying, "Hey, what do you want me to do?" Farewell kiss
And
from
I
Tatu
love
as well.
This is the thing. Every time when Furia wins the game, Tatu is the first out of the chair. And when Pain wins, Titan's the first out of the chair because he is shouting abuse at the enemy team. And we love him for that, right? Tatu is the first out of his chair, and he goes to everyone else, gives them the handshake, the clap on the shoulder, goes to his teammates and says, "Well done, you're sick, I'm sick, we're all sick." You know, that is just the vibes and the energy coming out of the jungle right now. And anyone who kept an eye on the goal difference at the end of that game, 4,500 gold lead over Desamis individually in the jungle. This is our featured matchup for today, and I gotta say, RMC, I think the kids might be the future. This is why I'm investing in Gen Alpha language, because Tatu is where it's at right now.
Fair enough. And I looked at K-Stars, and the Furia has a lot of hand talent. I think the org has done a wonderful job assembling this team with the coach. But I feel like CL's been doing a fantastic job finding and developing the talent, right? Like Desamis we talked about was on that Fluxu roster. It couldn't quite make it work, couldn't quite pop off. You know, you have Kissy, who he brought over from OS and, you know, developed through the academy system as well. Bull, a player who had kind of had a shot at CB Law and been discarded by a lot of orgs, and CL went, okay, we will redevelop you and make you good again. Did that. Morteus as well, you know, somebody who's been in the academy system for a while. CL is really developing talent, but right now it just feels like they haven't developed to the level yet to be able to match hands with Furia. And for Furia, Trajan, you said they didn't get a clean sheet this game. I think they're looking for the clean sheet this series. Instead, they're willing to give over those 2 kills to make sure that, hey, we're in a good position. We've got the good mental. We don't want to waste time. We want to get into that game 3 and get the 3-0.
Yeah, they are looking so polished today. VKS reeling after 2 swift losses handed to them by Furia. It's time for another break, another ad to kill off those pre-rolls. We'll be back with what could be the last game of the day if game 1 and 2 are anything to go by. We'll see you back here for game 3 of Furia versus VKS. Welcome back, everybody. 2 games in the books, and Furia leading both of them. 2-0 over Cade Stars, and ThinkCard was confident coming into the series, RMC, and I think we can see why.
For sure. I mean, the drafts, surprisingly, considering Coach CL praised ThinkCard's drafts, I didn't think it was the draft that was making a difference, but my goodness, on the Rift, it's all about the execution, Trajan. And sure enough, it does feel like Furia has answers to everything Cade Stars want to do. And it's not just that they've won the first 2 games, Trajan, it's that they've crushed it, dominated, swept it, and are looking to potentially 3-0 in this first round of playoffs.
Yeah, that would not be the story we expected, that's for sure. But again, it kind of, for Furia, it's always felt like they should be at this level. They've demonstrated this level before, but the problem comes when we ask it of them kind of consistently, and we ask it of them against different teams. There's always a tripping hazard, there's always a stumbling block that loses them a little bit of progress, but they get right back to this point more and more frequently, right? It's no longer like a fleeting high, it is becoming the norm, and the trippings are becoming the exception.
Yeah, if anything, the consistency is, I think, what we praise for them. Because if you look at just the highs, Cade Stars have had highs where they look as good, if not better, than Furia. But the consistency is just not there for them. And speaking of these comparisons, I think back to Furia against Pain last week, and it feels like they're doing to Cade what Pain did to them. Like, they're just out-handsing and knowing how to roll those leads. And I guess for Furia, if today they 3-0 Trajan, they will be going up against Pain in the second round of playoffs. And I think that's the one where they have to prove that they can do what they did today against a team with potentially better hands.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I have been keeping an eye, as I normally do, on the main broadcast here. And I'm pretty sure what this lower third is saying is that Furia has lost 2 bans for maybe the players being late to the stage, something like that.
That's not the first time. It happened to Pain already once.
I'm not sure what Atraso dos Jogadores no Retorno al Poker does, but they've lost 2 bans for sure. At least 2 potentially. So whoopsie on that one. Whether that actually affects them is going to be another question, right? Because it doesn't seem like, even when they've come out of the drafts and we've been like, good job VKS, you've got a great draft this game. Does it matter? No, hasn't affected the outcome one bit so far.
Yeah, and oh man, I think the last time it happened to Pain was in the Cade series, wasn't it? So I don't know what Black Magic CL is working, but he's managed to get himself another sort of ban advantage to come through.
He's leaving like oil slicks in the corridors to trip the players up or something, some real wacky racer stuff, just to get any edge possible to try and spike the wheel. Sadly, it has not worked yet. We'll see if it can though. So Furia here. We're seeing similar bans to once again, the Yone, the Sejuani, the Jace, the Poppy promoted to round 1, and the Bard coming out here as well. Both of these supports have pulled out a Bard throughout this series, and we're seeing it become more and more of a kind of a common pocket option as the regions enter the Fearless stages. And
again, given that Furia has lost 2 bans, these are all the bans they get, so I think they might have changed it up a little bit. They want to try and remove champions that are kind of high variance, like the Bard specifically, and the Yone, which they've consistently banned away as well. On the other side, Cade Stars is going kind of more meta with the Jace, the Braum, which has been a permaban, and the Sejuani. So jungle picks still abound. We've not really touched on the meta jungle picks for the most part, Trajan, right? We've had the Nocturne, the Nefiri, and then last game we had Xinjiao and Vi.
Yeah, so we're still... And with the Sejuani kind of perma-banned, we're still waiting on a potential Tattoo Skarnet, which is always a threat in Furia games. The first pick was the Rumble, so that one slipped through this time, and finally the priority has been realized. Another ban that got shifted was the Varus, and that looks like it might be the instant answer.
What? Oh, what?
Or we will just arrange... Oh, there we go. I mean, it's still going to come anyway, but I guess we will then have the a big sort of Wicker Man to get set alight by the Rumble, is my understanding of how the lanes tend to go. And we're speed drafting from Furia with a Rakan Yasuo in 2 and 3.
Okay, this feels like for Furia, and this is just a guess on my part, that when they lost the bans, they're just kind of going, okay, then we're just going to draft what we want and kind of screw the counter matchups, right? Like a Yasuo pick here could go to Ayu. That's worth noting. Ayu has played... or has been known to play Yasuo in the past.
He's got one. He's got a Yasuo. This man has a Yasuo for sure.
It could also go into mid for Tuts, a player who's very good at sort of AD champions. And I'm surprised they haven't picked their jungler just yet. The Skarner did not come through. Now, we might see a Diana from Tatu. I think he's played before in INTZ Academy, if memory serves right. And when you pick a Yasuo, I want to see the Diana. It's just such a good knock-up combo. You can also go Wukong as well. So, VKS, yeah, I do think it's the jungle bans that need to come through. It needs to be the Wukong, and it needs to be Diana.
Galio locked in for VKS for Kissy there, so both some beefy frontline being erected around Morteus here. We'll see if Desamis wants to offer anything that has that initial dive that can actually allow the Galio to get straight in there. The Skarner banned away, so Tatu going to be taken off the special. But yeah, the Diana's still going to, if it remains open, we're going to sit and wait for it. I don't think Gragas is playable in jungle anymore, right? We see it come out in top lane still every now and again, but I have not seen a Gragas jungle, but I won't rule it out just yet, I suppose.
Yeah, like I said, Tatu could play anything. I trust that he'd be able to do something with it somehow, introduce some sort of chaos. But yeah, going back to K-Stars on their side, they're looking to pick up their support and their jungler as well. I am a bit surprised by the Sion pickup for Bull this early when Bull has just been a carry player for most of the split. Now you're putting him on a tank. I don't know if I have confidence in him to be able to play that champion. It's a good pick into the Rumble specifically, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if he'll be able to have that same level of impact that he's had on carries in the past.
Okay, as we cycle through, of course, no second rotation bans for Furia there. We'll see what the last choice is going to be for VKS. The Wukong is the choice. Okay. So we'll now have Morteus, the VKS locking in. Oh, I guess we have to wait for Furia to not ban anything. And then we will see what the choice is going to be for VKS. So we need to see a support from them, assuming the Galio isn't going to go down there, but we don't really see that anymore. A support and a jungler for them. And then for Furia, we're looking for AD carry jungler. Or maybe mid lane jungler. Yeah. yes.
That's the flex that's coming through, right? I guess that's why we're seeing just jungle being pinched. And I love the flexibility that kind of gives you as well. Because seeing the Galio come in, that could be a Galio support as well. If it's mid, then I think you just run the Yasuo into it, right? And Yasuo is more than happy to be able to trade out there. Pantheon in the jungle for Desamis. So I like this from K-Stars. The early game has been struggling immensely this series. Like, Furia's just been running them over in the early game. The Samus on Pantheon specifically, Pantheon already an early game jungler, but the Samus on the Pantheon tends to make a lot of tracks, tends to enable his lanes. But if you want to enable your lanes, then maybe get a carry in the mid lane, send Galio bot lane. Because if it's Galio mid, I don't hold out much hope that it's going to be anything significant. Even if you get the lead, Yasuo can just 0-10 power spike.
Yes, and there it is. It is, in fact, the Yasuo bot lane with the Rakan here. So Ayu and Jojo taking double melee. It's been a while since we saw Ayu stray away into these non-standard picks that were kind of the calling card of Ayu for a long time. I remember the Senna Udyr lanes with like Jojo playing Senna and Ayu on Udyr, if we remember those ones, not very fondly, but
Ayu debuted as a support, and he was the guy who pioneered Bel'Veth support.
Bel'Veth. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Last pick for Furia is the Viego, so another carry and another champion we've not seen from Tatu yet, if I'm not mistaken, this split. So we are really pushing the boat out in this game 3. And we'll need to think about how this comp really fits together when we see what the answer from VKS is going to be.
Okay, Caston actually is a good pick into Azir, so I shouldn't laugh that hard at that. It's just a really weird pick and would feel very bad in this series when K-Stars have all been massively struggling in the early game. I like the Akali pick a lot better, a lot more agency, and it plays well, I think, into pretty much every single lane that Furia has. Yeah, a bit of a wild draft to come through, and you know what, Trajan, take it away while I ponder what my thoughts are on how this matchup's going to go.
Yeah, I had like a tiny thing in my head being like, what if somehow Gigo ends up with the Azir again and like Yasuo we get Rumble mid or some nuts from Furia just to completely confuse us at the very end here. But VKS's comp, if you look at this, they've again got solid dive now because we want them to build up some dive options for Galio. So they've got Pantheon, they've got Akali, they've got good front line with a Galio Sion, and they've got the Varus, right? Great kind of single scaling win condition carry, assuming that Morteus is going to go on hit, which I would imagine, but again, not necessary. And on the other side, let's think about how this Furia comp actually plays. How does it fit together? You've got a Rakan potentially as main engage, you've got Rumble ult too. You've got Viego looking for resets, I guess a Azir ult potentially as a playmaking tool. And where does Yasuo fit into this, I guess, as another backline threat or dealing with frontline? Like, what's the role for these champions here for Furia?
So Fury's draft tells a story in and of itself. The first 3 picks was the Rumble, Yasuo, Rakan, and that was just the AoE wombo combo that allows them to team fight. So Yasuo, backline threat, frontline threat, depends more on what JoJo's able to set up for IU here in terms of who he's knocking up, who you can kind of go in with on that last breath. But Furia kind of pivoting away with the Azir Viego. That's less team fight. Like, sure, Azir can team fight front to back really, really effectively as well. I'm not taking that away from Azir. But Azir is also going to be the primary turret taker now because Yasuo is very, very short range, and the Fury comp otherwise would struggle to actually siege and push to end the game. And it's really taking turrets that wins you games, not just getting kills. And Tatu just feels like, okay, we are strong enough, and we just want to snowball this with that Viego, get dives to come through. I think the individual lane matchups as well are not bad, actually. The bot lane might be the hardest, and even then, like, yeah, it's the melee into range, which is kind of tough, but Yasuo has a lot of kill threat onto Varus once you hit level 6 as well. So for overall, I think, yeah, Fury's just looking to snowball, playing off their hands that they've been doing all series long. I think they can continue to do that. And if anything, it's on Kate to answer back. It's on Desamis, it's on Morteus, it's on Trimby. I don't hold out much hope for Kissy and Bull in laning phase. They're more for the late game.
Yeah, I want to see what Desamis can do to rectify that, as Gigo on this Rumble has a lot of damage, will be strong in the mid game, but is vulnerable in the laning phase. Sion and Pantheon can lock it up without too much problem. True. He's got out of position. Io, of course, taking the exhaust as well on Yasuo, so not necessarily a standard bot lane pick, but when you are trying to dive in deep and neutralize Morteus, if he's going, he's got the lethal temper there, he's going to be going on hit in this game. You want to try and minimize that damage as well with Kissy. Even if you lose track of him in the Shroud, if you can get the exhaust down, it can potentially save you from execution later on.
I find it very interesting that there's no exhaust on the side for Kate Stars, because generally when you see a Yasuo, you take an exhaust and the Yasuo becomes kind of useless. Instead, Morteus specifically is opting for Ghost Flash. So he wants to have the ability to kind of reposition a lot, and he has to position right. I don't know how helpful that'll be against the likes of JoJo and even Tuts later on, but in the laning phase, I can kind of see it working. You create a lot of that space, and like I said before, for K-Stars, I am looking at their bot lane to be the lane that pops off. Interestingly, jungle as well, Desamis is starting by invading on the bot side.
Yes, we have seen fairly standard jungle pathing early on so far, but we've got that deep invade for Desamis. It has flashed already. Did he flash over the dragon wall to skip vision?
I think that's how he kind of got in there. And I really like the thought. We talked about early junglers. Pantheon point and click stun is massive, and into a Yasuo who has to step up into the wave as well. They can be quite effective. Unfortunately, they've been pushed under turret, and that means the dive gets a lot harder, especially if Yasuo can't hit level 2 first.
Yeah, Io and JoJo seeding ground in that lane over those first couple levels, so we'll likely just see Desamis complete the recall, as Tatu's going to arrive on this bot side and find nothing much to do right here. He's actually turned around and is now heading back up towards top instead, so not really sure where these junglers are going to end up, as Tuts and Kissy have been trading fairly normally, and looks like they're actually both going to end up on the same side, so we shall see if there's something to come of this.
Yeah, Desamis really wants to 3-buff this, and Pantheon is stronger than Viego early on, but it's about the lanes as well. Kissy able to get first move, and Tuts doesn't quite want to follow, which means Tatu kind of being left out to dry right now, will be significantly behind, and I don't know if he can find ganks either. Like, his lanes don't have the best of lane assists, and he wants level 6 to really start those ganks rolling.
Trimby gonna come in and grab that taunt against Yasuo, but the preemptive wind wall stops Morteus following up. They now seem to have managed to get a little bit of purchase in that lane, even in CS, and able to hold the wave and push it in themselves, as Tatu is actually still heading in to try and secure this red buff. Desamis is going to come around the corner and see this. It'll be a smite fight, but Desamis doesn't have smite, so he cannot win a smite fight, but he might just kill Tatu instead. He's trying to commit for the buff. He's going to find it, but he's going to die afterwards.
You know what? If you're Desamis, that's fine. He went to pick up red buff, and he found a bigger camp to be able to pick up. He got Tatu and red buff off his corpse as well. So Tatu, for the first time this series, being set behind, and that's significant because we know Tatu has that killer instinct. We know he knows how to play from ahead. But what happens when you're behind, especially on a champion like Viego? Do you know how to sit back and let your team carry you for a change?
Yeah, he's going to have to hunt for that first reset, but it's unlikely to be getting it himself. He's going to have to wait for his moment and pick that time to strike well. And if you don't, it can get very hairy very quickly. As once again, the bot lane still out. Io actually committing, trying to get past the taunt. Doesn't find it though. Drops the exhaust as well and just gets absolutely chunked out and just dies. JoJo diving in, left in the lurch with no one to dive back to safety. And that's a clean 2v2 kills for Cade Stars.
Furia, they're trying to give the fans their money's worth. You know, if you paid to go out to the LTA South Arena, they want to make sure you get more than 3 games, I guess. Because these are plays that Furia are initiating, Trajan. It's Tatu counter-invading, going for that red buff despite not having lane priority to back him up. It's IU and Jojo committing into that. IU looking for the engage with the exhaust and just absolutely getting dumpstered. And now Furia, look, their comp is really good when they're snowballing there ahead. But from behind, it's playable, but dicey. And if they hit about 20 minutes behind, that's when it gets kind of rough.
That's looking for a kill into Kissy. Jojo trying to punish, but will not be able to get in range in time. Kissy holds on to the flash and be able to step away. Has recently teleported, as has Tut, so not feeling in a great position right here. Jojo just making sure that damage really sticks.
Yeah, and Touch just trying to zone off for now. Morteus with the lane rotation already.
Second turret shot taken there, and there's no way for them to lock him down, but all that HP lead is gone.
I'm actually curious if Furia decide to kind of lane swap and try and match, because IU's been struggling in that 2v2 anyway. So would it be easier for them to kind of just leave Gigo up there?
I don't know. It's a weird decisions to be made by Furia right here. They're not ones to back down, but they have fumbled both their early attempts to make plays. And now Tatu is going to pick up this scuttle and probably have to just dip away from there. Both supports hanging up here as well. We might end the total grub dominance of the day for Furia at this rate, because they don't feel like they're in a good position to contest them.
Well, Crystal Ball says check back in 2 minutes. Grubs have a while to spawn yet, because it's a 6-minute lane rotate anyways. And if anything, I think they were trying to see if they could potentially dive whoever shows up in this top lane. Tatu up there right now, but backup is soon to arrive, and they're going to try and set up an ambush here.
They will have a 3 versus 2. Desamus doesn't have level 6 to quickly rotate over yet. Can IU bait them into a bad spot, as Gigo's going to continue manhandling Bowl in this 1v1 as we would expect? They've managed to get into range, but they don't have a knock-up yet, and Trimby doing excellent work running interference. In fact, they actually win the trade over the course of the 3v2 as well, and now Desamus has come around the corner. IU still diving in, but it's going to get knocked up with a Justice Punch. Has to flash. In comes another taunt. Jojo trying to slow Desamus down with a flash in, and a W locks down the Varus. A Wind Wall keeps the arrow off his back, and a TP out from Gigo, but Desamus with the spear. The Rumble surely can try and collect something back. Trimby will not be able to escape, but that took a lot of investment for Furia to get even that much.
And again, Trajan, it's Furia who's trying to kick things off. They were the ones brute forcing that particular play, and Trimby on this Galio, both taunts absolutely massive. Caught Tatu both times as collateral damage, but it made all the difference. Are they looking for this dive? They do not have the equalizer. They don't have any ults available. And Trajan, I don't know why Furia's forcing when they don't have the ultimate from Tatu. They don't even have Last Breath for IU either. What are these plays?
I think they were hoping Desamus wasn't there, and when Desamus pops out the burst, they go, aha. If Desamus was not there, guaranteed they force it anyway. Whether it works, I don't know, but they for sure would have tried it. They really seem to be feeling even more pressure to try and right this shit before letting it snowball out of control.
And perhaps they're feeling the pressure. Desamus is level 5. Once he hits 6, these sort of plays don't work out well anymore because of the double globals. IU thought he was home free, but unfortunately just went the wrong direction. If he went up, he'd be safe. Down, he died. And unfortunately, he just chose wrong at the moment. Trimby just sacrificing himself to get his team out. And Furia's on the board. Good for them, but it does feel like they put themselves in a hole before their power spikes. And now that they actually have the Heartbreaker and the Last Breath available, they might not be in the best position to actually make use of those ultimates. Down just over 1,000 gold. I think Kate Stars are going to feel comfortable starting up this dragon without too much contest, even as Bull is trying to stake his claim up top for Grubs.
And VKS with the gold exactly where they want it, getting it into Morteus to get their win conditions scaling up later on, and Desamus trying to change the narrative of the jungle in this series. It has been all Tatu today, but so far now, Desamus has woken up, has the level 6, 2 kills to his name, is going to get that first item down and be a real threat as this game continues right now. They've picked up the Drake, they're stealing away jungle camps as well. It will still be the Furia Grubs control after all of this, but that's about it.
Okay, yeah, and Tut's able to take away most of the small raptors as well, so not the entire gold kind of going the way of Desamus. Tatu's been able to kind of equalize. Actually, he's up CS, or sorry, up experience a little bit, I think, from stealing some of that lane XP earlier up top when Desamus was just kind of walking around. So yeah, it feels like Furia might have been able to stem the bleeding, but I might speak too soon as K-Stars have multiple members down here. They're looking for the dive. IU is 6, or 7, pardon me. Jojo is not, so no ultimate available for Rakan.
Tatu's here to support if needed. We saw Tuts tending down to bot side, having a wee look-see, has the TP as well, and Cade Stars will not go crazy in the bot lane right now. They will simply back away, hold on to their 1,000 gold lead, as it is a much better start for them in this third game. No need to get crazy and throw it away. It seems like Furia are perfectly happy to throw themselves at you so far.
Yeah, and with their composition, they will continue to be perfectly willing. As we see Jojo kind of dance in right now, just with the threat.
Ooh, committing.
Perfect last breath.
We've got the ultimate, the exhaust is down, there's no taunt for Trimby right now, but Ayu dashed away, they see Desamas coming through, they get back to the tower, Jojo's back to safety, now Tatu's here, this could be the kill they need to get started. First one, Desamas locked up and taken down, and Ayu hunting for another knockup, gets the double, Tatu looking for resets, Trimby trying to slow him down once again, it's a second kill, this time for Yasuo.
And just like that, Trajan, all the hard work Cade Stars put in early have been utterly undone. Gold pretty much dead even. Fury with a small lead, even as we see Gigo and Bull with a cookout up top. It's fine. There's no kill threat here. But the bot side certainly did. And the Yasuo is coming online. It's not the O10 power spike. Ayu with 1 kill in pocket is going to get a lot deadlier.
Okay, Kissy deeping into bot side, into top side to pick up this wave as well. Gigo has been happily building a lead right there, but ultimately it just comes down to Fury just picking the right moment. Gigo did not have the shop open, has not fallen into the trap of many other pro players these last couple of weeks, has his head screwed on and his eyes open.
Yeah, we had a chat about that in the break where a lot of players are just caught shopping randomly recently. I don't know what's going on. Are you on Trimby?
Engage on Trimby. He's going to have to taunt this time, but Tatu once again ready and waiting, and Morteus just about escapes the Rakan ultimate flashing from Tatu, but doesn't have the damage to get it over the line. And they won't overforce, but Tut's now coming. He's going to be here before Kissy. Desamas has to flash away from the Emperor's Divide. And with that, Furia will call it off.
Yeah, flashes traded from junglers. No bodies hit the floor, but Trajan, Cade Stars have definitely woken up. I think this skirmish, among others, really shows that Cade Stars, you know, the first 2 games, I think they lose that fight. They have lost bodies, but now they're starting to show hands, and that's what you need to see from the compositions. The teams both scale pretty well as well. They have pretty strong team fighting, a lot of front-to-back strength for both of them. A lot of champions who can go diving, like with the Pantheon, with the Akali, with the Viego, with the Yasuo as well. So if Cade Stars can maintain this level of play, if they can improve this level of play, they can win this game and certainly give us a much more competitive game than what we've seen in this series thus far.
Ayu holding down the mid lane, Morteus and Trimby. Once again, these bot lanes have rotated into that mid stage as the laning phase continues onwards. And for Furia, they've managed to equalize the gold, so it's basically even at this point. They've shown that they can make successful plays with the combo, but VKS have also showed that they can manage it out as well. Even when they get engaged upon, they still have the tools to back away. They're getting items coming through right now as well. So Furia, they have to pick their moment carefully or they will be punished.
And as this game goes longer, as more and more items accrue and damage increases between both of these teams, the fights are going to get a lot more explosive. So far, we've seen some really good engages coming through from both sides, good picks, good catches. And the reason why we're not seeing more deaths is simply just a lack of damage and teams being able to kind of just walk away, limp away, broken, but not dead. Whereas once the first item starts to come through, I think you're going to see Ayu and Jojo specifically be a lot more aggressive. You know, as 2 items come through, Kissy and Morteus, they're going to start looking for picks of their own, and then it becomes a lot more about a vision game and who can pull triggers first.
Absolutely. Ayu still holding down this mid lane. VKS going to take a little journey into that bot side jungle. The next dragon up just under 30 seconds. VKS with 1 already. Would love to keep them stacking up, and could be an opportunity for Furia to either take a fight in the pit, try and corral them in, or it looks like they might try to punish top lane. Still waiting for the decision of Furia to make this play.
They can't punish top lane. Bull is too tanky.
No.
And Tuts with the Nash's Tooth right now doesn't have a good way to cut through that tankiness. So get vision, get control, sure. But I don't know if that's the right side of the map necessarily to prioritize. I think bot side, where Kissy right now is still vulnerable to being shut down, hasn't completed first item, and where Dragon has spawned, should be the focus of these teams.
Ayu is just dashing into the face of a Varus with ultimate up and no teammates around him. The sheer cojones from this Yasuo, yeah, trying to bait it out, ready and waiting with a wind wall perhaps as the dragon starts up, but Furia do have people in the area.
Do Furia know, though? They're looking for kills instead of dragons.
Ooh, there's the ult combination. It's just Trimby. They look up Kissy as well, but they don't get that much damage down. He's into the backline, exhausted, but the Galio gets the triple knockup. VKS with a lovely re-engagement, and Furia have overwrought this play, and they get battled back in mid lane.
And like we said, when Cade is hot, they are hot. Their ceiling is incredibly high. They get Dragon to boot, and they get kills on the back, and they're going to be able to continue pushing in as well. Gigo has to be a little bit careful if he wants to stay isolated in this lane, especially when Desamis and Trimby are nearby. Yes, they have a lot less health, but they have a lot more bodies.
Oh, Gigo's getting Pantheon ulted on. There's a Galio around the corner. Yes, he has good threat onto the Sakali to keep them out of there. Any one of these players might struggle with him, but all three together can take him apart, and they will not put a foot wrong. Desamis picks up the kill. 7 the total now for VKS, and back up to over 1,000 gold lead.
Perfect spacing and priority from Vivo K-Stars, making sure that Gigo can't really focus down any one person. You're just dragging them back and forth. Desamis, was he shopping? Oh, it's just Jojo. Never mind. There's no kill threat.
Yeah, still annoying, but yeah, no real threat to be taken away. No shutdowns to be picked up. But it feels like Furia are really suffering from they didn't have the Yasuo first item in that fight. He's now completed the Kraken Slayer. Tatu as well. They just don't really have any solid AD damage in that play. Bowl is stacking up MR already, and Trimby is Galio, which automatically gets an AP shield.
Yeah, and I think K-Stars layered their combo perfectly as well. The Chains of Corruptions came across and locked them all in for the hero's entrance. So they got introduced to the Bound House. And we were talking about how Ayu was holding Windwall to deal with the ultimate. Well, it didn't come out. And Chains of Corruption did land, and it did spread. And because of that, yeah, Furia ended up losing that play. And that just shows how close a lot of these fights can be, should be, throughout the rest of this game as well.
Furia managed to pick up that top scuttle. They'll see Kissy coming through the river. A Rift Herald potentially to fight over for now, as K-Stars walked away with that second Drake. So again, they have taken the first 2 in the game, and a much better look in game 3 than game number 2. That's for sure. Another Chemtech Rift, sadly for them, so nothing extra hypey to snowball and scale into. Gigo might be on the receiving end of a gank, but Tatu is ready and waiting to punish right now. The TPs are in. A lovely equalizer turns that carpet back to the tower. Red and Desamis trying to escape. Kissy into the backline still. They managed to find the jungler. A shove back from the Azir keeps Kissy out of that backline, and he has to dash to safety. Morteus and Trimby are watching. Bowles TP'd in, but the fight's already ended.
Yeah, and without Desamis, no smite available. Shelly going to be started up by Furia. K-Stars, are they going to look for kills on the back end? Perfect execution was already used by Kissy earlier, almost as an escape tool. So with Bull, Trimby, Morteus, they've got a front line, they've got an AD carry, but do they have enough burst?
Ooh, Kissy with a potential flank here, but Ayu finds the knockup and actually commits early on. Remember, no Akali ultimate, as you said, RMC, and now a long way back to the turret. Might have to flash to escape the W. There it is, another knockup from Ayu. Ult already committed, they have the damage. Galio's there. It cannot stop them. Tatu's passive dodges the Galio, but Bull has found his way in, crashes into the front line, and 2 kills lay up for K-Stars.
That was a disgusting amount of damage Bull just did. He ran into Ayu, he ran over Ayu with the unstoppable onslaught. And now Tuts left in this top lane. He was the one who picked up the Eye of the Herald. Gonna summon Shelly up top. Try and find first brick, at least, for Furia. Able to secure it. And now up against Bull. Yeah, he's gonna drop his own turret to try and control Bull. If not, I think Bull just walks all over Tuts.
Yeah. Gonna get that knock up on the Herald with the Eye open. Unlikely it makes it to the next tower, and it's just gonna get picked up by the Scion regardless. But thus far, still a little bit more damage. Tuts again. Oh no, surely we didn't mess this up, Bull. Oh dear, man. Come on now.
I blame the tank debuff. Bull on the carry would have taken it, no question. Okay, we get to kind of see the re-engage on this, but this is after the fight is already kind of done. Desamis already dead, and Furia just look for the engage onto Kissy. There's a lot of AoE here, so the Shroud is a lot less useful to Akai than it normally would be. But Kissy individually, for all his problems with the team sometimes, he's still a very good individual player. He gets so much space, and then right there, Bo just evaporated Ayu. Gigo is left up a creek with no paddle. His team just leaving him to the dogs, to the wolves, to the warriors. And K-Star still managed to maintain the slightest of gold leads despite losing first brick.
So we are coming in here once again with VKS. Yes, they have left a couple of windows for Furia to punish, and the gold is still close, but Morteus and Desamis are still scaling up nicely, still getting that good damage, and Morteus is yet to die. Has not been caught out just yet, has both summoners ready to go, so they're likely to be ensuing fights here. We've got a Drake, we've got Atakan coming soon, and Furia have shown they want to get stuck in, but it is going to be no easy feat to get onto this Varus.
And it's critical to note as well, lethal tempo for Morteus means that he is on hit Varus. The longer he survives, the more damage he'll do in fights, as compared to like lethality Varus, where a lot of your damage is more poke oriented before the fight actually breaks out proper. So Morteus' positioning is going to be key and critical. IU not quite able to find the pick he wanted, and a TP from Gigo. Furia hard committing to this dragon. They want another 5v5.
Yeah, they're going to be on vision as they have not been able to clear out that cheeky red ward just north of the pit right now. Dasama's trying to forge a path in. IU still stacking up on the wave, wants to make sure he has a tornado ready to offer. They won't find an angle for the dragon. Now VKS does find the knock up onto Morteus, does IU, and Furia trying to get back to the safety. It looks like VKS want to try and catch him, slip in, Tuts maybe, slides out of the pit, uses that mobility to great effect, but Trimby is in, far in front of the team. Jojo trying to slow them down, but will be caught up. It is finally a kill for K-Stars after stretching for it.
And Jojo with the hero, albeit perhaps unwilling sacrifice to stop Bo from using the pain train once again to get into the fight. And with that, Dragon for single kill is normally worth it. The problem for Furia is it's their first Drake. So they've got a long way to stack for it to mean anything. And they gave up that early gold. They're also going to give up Atakan pressure as K-Stars are starting this up. This is risky for K-Stars. I don't know if they have enough damage.
Yeah, Jojo's already coming off the fountain, and Fury, if they can bait and switch them, slow them down, if they can find Kissy, I don't know if they know that the Akali is in the flank right now. Io again looking for it. In comes the Akali. Fury immediately tried to peel back. Down goes the Equalizer to slow them down. Bo won't find the knock-up. Jojo's going to arrive in a second, but VKS have already found their way in. Trimby might go low, but he won't die yet. Io has been picked off. Furia are desperately trying to fight their way out. Morteus is still untouched. The lethal tempo stacking up in Furia. They do find Kissy. They've managed to stick together. Morteus trying to turn around. A double kill now for Dasamus as the jungler for Furia falls. Jojo has to get away. It's 2 for 2 right now, and they're still going for it. Furia are not ready to lay down their weapons just yet. Gigo with the harpoon slowing down Bowl again and again. Knockup missed. Tuts has to keep an eye on Morteus. A flash away from Sion, and now finally Furia cannot find a grip on anyone else, and they will back off.
I just cannot believe these. Welcome to the South, where no one backs down and everybody just keeps on doubling down. Furia and Cases, part of me believed they were just going to go all the way until there's one last man standing. But my goodness. I want to highlight too, in the fight, IU didn't get a last breath off. You pick Yasuo specifically for the ultimate. And unfortunately, there wasn't enough knock-up setup. IU wasn't able to do that, and he went down early. So that was negative for Furia. Kate Stars as well. Bo, this tank just seems unkillable right now. Furia is playing around the Sion rather than through the Sion because they can't actually kill this tank, which, hey, great play from Furia, but it's certainly complicating their game plan significantly. And then you just see Morteus standing behind Bo most of the time. He's got this huge, massive bulwark in front of him, and it's letting him free hit. That's how Kate Stars are remaining relevant when Kissy's going down this early, when Dasamus is struggling to have impact after his initial Grand Star pull.
Yeah, when they're really feeling the lack of gold for IU or Furia, when they don't have anyone that can shred a frontline, that, as you say, if they can't get that ultimate off, there's just nothing being offered. It's going to take so long for this Yasuo to get activated in this game. Now, Tuts and Tatu and Gigo are doing a great job at holding these fights together, but it really feels like they're pushing the stone uphill right now.
Yeah, and I fear for Tatu and Gigo specifically as well, because neither of them are particularly tanky. So they're trying their best to carry things, but they also can't quite shred through Bo, and they can't reach Morteus, and so they're just getting shredded while they're doing the bulk of the work. Bo initiating onto this, but Jojo able to interrupt.
Gigo's got the flash if needed. Asama's not going to quite get in range. Trimby ready and waiting to see if there's a play to be had here, but Furia have made it back to the safety of the turret.
And I do like the fact Bo kind of uses that ultimate right there, because there's not a lot, I was going to say not a lot to fight over, as Furia actually set up Atakan. This could come back to bite them. Bo has teleport, but he doesn't have the unstoppable onslaught. And Kissy is aware of this?
Yeah, Trimby's got ult as well and is already in mid lane. I think Furia know that they don't have enough time to finish this one. They're going to back away now. IU just going to try and soak up some more gold as well. Always threatening with these tornadoes, man. Never... Always, every time he sees it, hits it, I'm expecting him to take it. That's just the attitude that has been cultivated by IU on this Furia roster.
Fair enough, and I love that IU is patient enough not to get Lee Syndrome on this Yasuo and actually go in on all of that. If Trimby or Dasamus is anywhere nearby, it doesn't work, right? They can just stun him up, taunt him up, make sure that he can't follow through, and then Morteus will just absolutely rip him a new one. So IU showing a lot of restraint right now, as expected. Now, the question is in the team fights. That restraint can be a negative. He needs proper setup. Can he land the tornado on the right targets, specifically Morteus and Kissy? It's been very, very hit or miss thus far.
VKS are posturing heavily around this mid lane. Gigo coming off the fountain, still has a TP to get in range if needed, but right now, I'm not sure what the plan is right here. VKS are just trying to catch Furia, trying to draw them into a play and try and use what strength they have. Bowl waiting with a flank on the bot side as Gigo has now arrived. Furia are bunched together. They need to try and work out where this Scion is.
Unfortunately, I already just used the tornado. Doesn't have it available. Needs to restack it again. And I think that's why Furia is being a bit gun shy right now. I don't hate it again, but it's just so conditional the way they're playing. Kissy looking for the Mondo flank and also securing K-Star's access to this dragon. This would be so point for K-Stars if they can get it. Whereas Furia seem to much more highly prioritize the Atakan.
Now, VKS are going to make their way over right here. Furia, they're not actually trying to stop them. They're just trying to burn through this Atakan. And VKS tentatively heading up the river. They will be here just about in time, I think, to stop it. Maybe not. If Desamas can ult in, perhaps. But the Atakan has been taken. Now, Furia, they still have a top lane turret to get to as well. But Bowl still gets the double knock up on the carries. With the Q and in comes Desamas. Furia need to get out of here. Cut your losses and try and survive. They're back to the turret. They found Kissy. They get away from most of the knockups. Ayu is wasting Desamas his time, and right now it's just 1-for-1. Tatu, in fact, diving in more with the Akali shield, the Akali form worn out. Gigo is pretty low, wants to get, but Bowl has finally actually been shredded through. Tuts is doing a lot of DPS in this play. Furia, again, they just refuse to stop fighting. Finally, they will pull back, and they got the Atakan for basically nothing there.
Yeah, they get out 1-for-1 clean, so that's equal. And on top of that, K-Stars lost priority on the dragon. So Furia will get the reset, will get to go down and contest for this dragon in time to boot. And Trajan, just watching that fight cracked me up because I was watching Tuts versus Morteus. Tuts has been known to say that he likes to play marksman in the mid lane. He was the guy who started playing Draven, Jhin in the mid lane in CBLOL. But the way he's playing Azir now, he is a marksman. He's the sustained damage, not Ayu. Ayu's kind of a mid laner the way these fights break out. He's all about that burst, and watching Tuts kind of go toe-to-toe with Morteus was kind of cool.
Ooh. Decent damage right now.
Yeah.
Tuts TP's in and gets knocked right back down to nothing. That's unfortunate for him. Doesn't have a flash either, so VKS still very much threatening. And they've managed to retain control of the river as Ayu and Jojo cannot forge a path in just yet. But instead, Furia have gone up for the Baron, and again, they're just opting to force the issue.
Yeah, and because of that, K-Stars can't focus on the dragon. Taunt lands onto 2. Ayu critically has to flash away right now.
Here comes Bowl, training up that river to stop this in its tracks right now. The reset's already come out. Furia have dived out of the river to safety.
Okay, and now Furia probably just want to reset, but they need to make sure K-Stars don't turn and go for this Baron. K-Stars less confident despite having more tanks. They don't have the damage necessarily. Morteus will shred right through Baron, but Desamas and Kissy less so. They are much more burst oriented. So Furia, again, kind of getting away with murder. Punished, but not broken.
A lot of key flashes missing from Furia right now. I think a fight would be a pretty risky proposition. VKS sending Morteus down into the river to perhaps just start this dragon up as we still see the replays or the resets coming through from Furia, but they are kind of taking their time with it, and Tatu will be able to get there to contest it, I think, before it goes down, unless he stops for his red buff. They have checked it on Vision, though, so he can ult in if he wants to. Desamas is there, and maybe Tatu just thinks it's not worth it. It is, in fact, it's not the soul, it's just a single Chemtech.
It is so point, however, and K-Stars do have a lot of champions that can make very, very good use of the Chemtech. I personally think Chemtech works best on bruisers or tanks, and you see Sion, Pantheon, Galio, all kind of tanky bruisery players. Even Akali can get a little bit tanky as the game goes on. She'll certainly build a lot of health, so I do think it's very beneficial for K-Stars if they can get it. Furia, though, you can afford to sack it if need be. If you can get more somewhere else and then play for the Elder instead. Trimby, did he get caught out?
Not in a great spot. He's lost his Justice Punch, though. May be able to get this kill. No one's arranged to help him. So a lovely little invade from Furia there. Snagged a free kill.
And Trimby has been actually massive for this K-Stars roster. With him down, they lack a lot of the CC that was helping them win fights. So Furia feeling a lot more comfortable starting up this Baron now. It's got to be Bowl trying to turn things, but he's got to get in mid lane if he wants to use the Unstoppable Onslaught as a way to punish.
They've got vision of it. Desamas doesn't have flash. He has the ultimate no blast cone. It's going to be tricky to get in there. If he's got no vision, he can't W into the pit. It's already down below to 3k, and Desamas can't even do it. Jojo's ready there to stop him. Tatu picks it up, and a single support pick turns into a huge Baron swing.
Yeah, the confidence that that gave them, as well as Furia knowing how to play that perfectly. Jojo with the interrupt to make sure even if Desamas was looking for the Grand Starfall, it wouldn't have been able to come through, and Tatu should have been able to secure that with no questions whatsoever. Trajan, this game is the game we were promised when we saw the matchup. The macro, the skill between these two teams, the decision making to know when they can go in and what they can achieve has been massive. And now I'm just waiting for the crowning piece, which is going to be a massive 5v5. I want to see IU actually get a last breath off in a team fight, Trajan.
Yeah, I want to see this Yasuo do anything. This game would be cool. At some stage, Jojo might be a little caught out right now. Kissy lands the Shuriken, but Tuts is there to give him a battle dance to safety if needed. VKS will get the scuttle, but no, find the kill.
And with that, we're just kind of back to lanes, safety lane, Jojo.
Why are we all hunting Jojo down? It's like, guys, leave me alone. I know we killed your support, but please.
Well, Jojo needs to stop putting himself in sus positions. Like, you knew K-Stars was in the area, and he just hops over. But he's fine. He's Rakan. He's safe. It just looks dicey, but there was never any real risk. The Baron push from Furia. What can they find? I just realized mid-outer turret is still up with Baron being taken. And they're actually struggling to push this in. We already said this. The range of this comp is kind of weak. It's got to be Tuts trying to hit those turrets. But Tuts is not pushing right now. It is IU, and he is a melee champion.
You don't often see the outer turret on a 30-minute Baron push, that's for sure. It is going to finally fall. There's still one outer in bot side for Furia to pick up. It's only 2 turrets to 1. Neither side has been able to actually get significant pushes or side lanes going. The fights have been so close. Kissy's spotted out on the pink ward, does get shoved out of his hiding spot, and down goes the second turret for Furia.
Okay, there we go. Baron being put to good use, Trajan. They finally cracked turrets. That's all the outer turrets down, as you mentioned, at 30+ minutes. It's a bit of a slow grind, and that does mean, for viewers, good news. We are going to get more than one massive team fight. One massive team fight cannot end this game anytime soon. Not until, 45, 50 minutes. They're looking for Kissy.
Ooh, tries to scoop him. Doesn't quite have it. Doesn't have vision, but tries to just go for it anyway. Now, they don't have that ult for defense, and Desamus wants to go in. Instantly goes into knock-up. Trimbeat with a nice taunt, and Bowl once again crashing in. But Kissy's gone in, and exhausted and dropped, and the rest of VKS are huddling beneath the tower. Morteus finally stepping up to get that Varus damage down. Jojo with a knock-up to stop him in his tracks, and Io looking for more. The turret doing work for VKS, and Furia has no need to commit.
Do we consider that a big team fight, Trajan? Does that check the checklist in our bingo cards?
Everyone was there, I guess. There were some ults used, turrets fallen. It's despite the fact that almost nobody died, it's got everything else about it, I suppose.
Yeah, Kissy the only casualty on that one. You know what? Those are the best team fights, Trajan, where nobody dies. They can crash back right away. There are stakes, there are rewards, but the game still grinds on, and it is a slow grind coming through. Even Kissy opted to re-engage on that fight after dodging out on everything on the Emperor's Divide. And the supports right now, Trimby and Jojo, are doing fantastically. The amount of CC they're pumping out in these fights is insane. But at the same time, because they're landing at the same time, the teams can't follow up because they're being CC'd. So we're seeing Trimby and Jojo kind of get in there and have to walk away. And keep your eyes on Tuts and Morteus in these team fights, because they're the ones doing the bulk of the damage. IU's last breath went on Bull, and Bull was just like, haha, funny. You hit my funny bone. That's about it.
Yeah. Pretty much. Morteus, despite the fact, there's so many, these fights have been so chaotic, still hasn't died, and it's now starting to index into these tankier items, still has flash. He's gonna have the damage, he's gonna have more survivability. He's been doing his absolute damnedest to stay safe and do what he can, and VKS are needing to rely on this Varus. Trimby is gonna get in and get a couple of lovely taunts onto those front lines. Once again, the equalizer was massive, and then finally the last breath, the combo has arrived, RMC. It took them 32 minutes to find it, but when it hits, it's an ace for 0.
Wait, surely they can't end on this push, right, Trajan? We were just saying there's so many turrets up. 40 seconds.
They've got Grubs.
True.
I think it's over. They've got all 5 alive. They've got Azir. They've got Yasuo. Remember the positioning phase game, RMC? It was tight down the line, and then one fight for Furia, and the door just slams on Gia Furia itself. The hunters have become the hunted. The Guerreros crumble before a masterful Furia 3-0.
2-4-6 is the new 0-10 power spike, Trajan, for Yasuo. IU struggling immensely this game, but like you said, this is how Furia ended the last time in the positioning phase. 32 minutes, by the way. Same time, around the same time. Same big one team fight, 5-0 ace, clean sweep, and then they just go right into the end. And that wouldn't have been possible if they didn't have to burn, if they didn't set up prior, if they didn't already take some of those turrets to set up for the final push. And just like that, Trajan, Furia march on. We have a clear hierarchy. Pain up top, Furia second, VKS third.
Oh my word, a well-deserved bow from the Furia boys. What a performance here today. with the Yasuo bot lanes. You know, we're still picking crazy stuff. We've got carries for Tattoo now, Viego and Nefiri. And they're taking swings in the draft, they're taking swings in the game, and yes, they don't all hit. Sometimes VKS were ready to slap them down in that early game, but once they finally put it together, they knew what the goal was, they knew what the win condition was, they were playing for it, and when it landed, the game literally ended, and the series ended as soon as they hit it one time.
It's not about the last breaths you miss, Trajan. It's about the one that hits.
The one that wins the game.
Yep, more than anybody else exemplifies that. But for Furia as well, Trajan, I think we got to see various facets of Furia, right? We got to see them when they were ahead and they are clean. We got to see them when they're even and they know how to generate a lead. Now we get to see them from behind and they know how to stall out and they understand the assignment. They know what it takes to win the game. So Furia kind of looking like the complete package. In general, I would argue probably Furia is the best looking team. I know the Pain actually. Yes. I know that Pain is up top right now, but they're just coasting on
They
hands.
do look better. They look. When we try to analyze them, we can put forth the most robust arguments as to why they're better. Of course, we then get on the Rift in the Sao Paulo arena, and some of that doesn't make it in the door. Right? That's just the way it works. But it's very encouraging to see this, and I think particularly from Gigo, who I had a close eye on today after struggling against Pain, after being a bit of a problem there, comes in against Bowl, has a great 3 games, winning matchup or not, and I think low-key, if we were to look at those fights again, the equalizers from this game were absolutely astounding, and Jojo ready to follow up on them. They're always perfectly placed, and when he's the only one coming out of lane actually looking good, they had to hit every time, and he did not miss.
Yeah, 100%. And we saw the Yasuo Rumble Rakan combo. We're thinking, okay, big Rumble combo. It wasn't that whatsoever. Gigo was using the equalizer to slow down the VKS engage. So a lot of times when single targets got caught by Trimby, who also had a fantastic series, the team wasn't able to dogpile quite quickly enough. And then Ayu, Jojo, whoever was getting caught gets time to get back out and then look for the re-engage. But let's talk Cade Stars as well, Trajan, because they're not out of it. It's double elimination for the top 4 teams. Cade will fall down to play against Red. And today, I'm not sure what to make of them. On one hand, I can see what they were going for, but on the other hand, Fury was so overwhelmingly dominant. I don't know if Cade didn't show up on the day or whether they just got bowled over and didn't get a chance to show what they had. But if they're playing like this, I'm worried for them against Red. Red is chaotic, but they're a team that can also punch up at times.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the way that Furia described their approach is they felt very prepared for this team, and it felt like they were able to puppeteer VKS a lot of the times. They were able to draw them into a situation and then capitalize on it. It felt like they were able to they understood how Cade Stars wanted to play. And do I think Red is going to do that? No, I don't think Red is going to do that. I don't think that's how Red plays the game. So I don't think VKS will be as manipulated perhaps in the series by Red. However, when it comes to individual performances, the mechanics for Furia were really propping them up at times, and that's one thing that Red always has. They've always got hands. How they choose to use them is another question, but if FNB is going to take advantage of Bowl, if Morteus and Trimby are going to struggle against Brunsate and Frosty, another really strong 2v2, you know, and I think the main problem for me today is I think Kissy had another real rough series today. I think it's been a couple of series since we've seen Kissy really hit in that mid lane. And that's, if you can't have Kissy taking advantage of Grefthar, that's gonna be pretty tough. The fights are gonna get pretty difficult perhaps, and Red might actually just be able to bowl them over, as you say, to steamroll them without having to get nearly as smart about it as maybe Furia did.
Yeah, so a lot of notes, I'm sure, for Vivo Cade Stars to go back and take a look at. Coach CL definitely going to have to, has his work cut out for him. I do think the draws from Cade Stars were good, at least. So
they were good. I liked them.
That part of CL's planning has gone to plan, and it is really down to player improvement. I agree with you. I think Kissy's having some issues connecting with the team. Even the games when he did well, it felt like him and Desamis weren't always on the same page. So, but Trajan, that's for next week, where we get to see our 5th and 6th seeded team. So the first time this playoffs, it will be Red versus Vivo Cade Stars and IE up against Loud.
I'm very excited for IE Loud. After that Pain series where Loud are continuing their I don't know if they're fully playoffs Loud yet, but they're getting there for sure, and they're still improving, and IE are the same. They are on the road to redemption. They're both going to come upwards and going to bounce off each other, and only one of them is going to advance. We're going to lose either our first split leaders or one of the most decorated orgs in Brazilian League of Legends history next weekend. They're going to go out in 5th/6th. It is going to be a nightmare for them. So you want to tune back in to see that one. The VKS Red matchup could be a blowout as well. Could be it's a very interesting stylistic difference. But then, yeah, those the two kind of almost elder statesman teams. IE is a relatively new form in the Sao Paulo arena, but, you know, Isurus and Estral, they've been around in the LLA for a long time. Jose Diodo, Summit, these names that have been around a long time. There's a lot of tenure in that match, but we will only see 5 of them advance. So a lot on the line next weekend, that's for sure.
But that's for next week, Trajan. And today we're done. It's an early quick 3-0. Not something I expected, but at the same time, I'm not terribly surprised more at the manner it was done in. So, Trajan, any final words before we send them off to the LTA North?
Well, I think when we were talking about this matchup, we were talking before about, you know, did you catch the Red Lev series, and like that was a 2-0 and kind of we expected this, and today the one thing we think isn't going to happen is a 3-0 either way, and here we are looking like fools. 3-0 Furia. Again, the narratives just refuse to fall into line. You cannot predict this region, and you're a fool to try. With that, thank you everybody for watching. If you like what we do here, please consider supporting us with a follow on the channel. If you can, a subscription as well, or a Prime as well. It really helps us out. You can follow us on Twitter and join our community Discord to chat with us and see more news and updates about the LTA South, everyone's favorite region who's actually watched it. Right, my name has been Trajan. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, RMC, and thank you, Chippy, on production, as always, doing a fantastic job. We will see you guys next week for the elimination matches in playoffs.